All right, I think I'm on here. Hold on. Yep. All right. Verify my feeds real fast. Welcome everybody in the future, past and present. Whatever timeline you find yourself on at the moment. Want this to be relevant. Where you don't just have to watch me fumbling around for the first few minutes while I get this thing going. All right, looks like one feed is ready to go. Zero notice on this thing. I really just haven't even announced it on the Twitters or anywhere else right now. So I will do that. Alrighty. Welcome. Welcome. Type this in really fast. All right. Got that out on Twitter. Get this going. All right. I'm running a little bit behind. I apologize. Not that I had a schedule set up or anything, but I was trying to get this going around 11. So, because that's kind of what I've been doing the last few times I did it. All right. What you doing? Good. All right. Well, how should we start this here, folks? Tonight, basically the theme for tonight is going to be because the media cycle is just getting beyond ridiculous lately with the nonsense and the obviousness of the nonsense. I thought I should be doing some, I thought I should be doing some whatever. You know what? You're already starting to like, here you go. All right. By now, I would hope you know how this all works, but I'm not going to get into it. All right. So, evening, folks. No offense, guys, ladies and gentlemen, but don't want to get off on a bad start, but you know how the channel works when it comes to introducing things on the channel in the chat. So anyways, we're going to be talking though about media influence and face masking. So it's ironic that what just happened because that's kind of the theme. Now, why people use face masking, I don't entirely know in every case, but I've ran into some cases where people were using CGI face masking in ways that were not too cool. And sometimes they do it in ways that are actually quite benevolent and they're not doing it for negative reasons. But my channel is about being 100% me, being my actual authentic self. And I don't promote face masks or anybody that I think does. And, that's where I'm going to leave that. So let's get this going, guys, because I don't want to start off on a bad note here. Basically, what this is about is today, there was quite a few of these news stories that are going out around the whole Penn, Sean Hannity thing. And it just really got me thinking about the whole ecosystem of the way fake news is actually produced, and what a union there is between the mainstream media and Hollywood. So Hollywood makes fictional films, stories that are based on a true story, but not always obviously a true story. And sometimes they just have ones that are outright fiction, start to finish. And when you take all of the skills of Hollywood that can make something that really drives your emotions and makes you feel something, and you translate that into the media cycle, it becomes kind of a dangerous tool or a dangerous weapon. It's become something more than just making things up. It actually becomes something that can cause a lot of damage. It's weaponized information. And this has been a tool of the Nazis in America going back decades. You think it's something new, a lot of you, but this has actually existed a very, very long time, going all the way back to black and white television and in films. There's been the ability to make, optical changes to make a person's eyes do this, their cheeks do this, stretch their face this way, this way, this way. All right. And so when that happens, basically it has like the same effect as modern day CGI, where, for example, you have software apps on cell phones called face swap and things of that nature, right? Where you can look into the camera and it either adds like a mask to you, or you get, like, I just did a joke one the other day where I made Santa Claus the face or whatever. There's things like that you can do. I've actually used the face swap app to like make my face look like Burt Reynolds or Wilford Brimley, like as a joke. It doesn't look that realistic because it's just a cheap application on a smartphone. But the ability to do complete face masks to where a person could literally take anybody else's face and then present it as themselves on media. We all know, we've seen examples of it this last year. Every time I try to show examples of this, guys, they always do something to my channel. So I can't show you things like the Shining clips like I used to, because that's like a guarantee that they'll shut my channel down for like a month. That's what happened the last time. So don't ask me to play you The Shining with Jim Carrey, but you should go look into that. Go look up The Shining with Jim Carrey, and on your own sometime, or even tonight, whenever you want to do it. But if you've never seen that in my presentations, like back in the day, I used to do that one a lot, and I wouldn't get dinged for it. But for some strange reason, when YouTube wants to shut down my channel, they'll suddenly invent like copyright violations and say that I'm not supposed to do this or that with it. So I've learned that I can't use those clips ever again, and I try not to do anything that gets me copyright strikes. And so, like, part of the reason why I made the action like I did in the chat just now was because I'm gonna let you guys know, if you want things to stay friendly with me within these environments, don't even like ask me that about a person that looks like a face mask, unless you want to ask me privately. Ask me privately, and then we'll see about putting it inside the chat. I do that for a reason. I'm not trying to censor in the classic sense, guys. It's just that this is my channel. This is my content. Okay. And it's not about greed. It's not about whatever, keeping attention on whatever. It's that I don't like characters that I think are using face masking promoted in this channel. Okay. I don't like it, because I have to walk around in public and everywhere else with this face. Okay. Who I am as I am. And I do that purely. And if I don't have a guarantee that whoever you're putting into my chat is doing the same thing, I don't even want to deal with it. I don't even want to be asked a question about it. And I don't want you asking me to promote them or give them more attention or direct this audience to people that I know are using face masking, good, bad, or indifferent. If you want to ask me separately, that's totally cool. I have no problems with it. I'm not trying to be a dick or anything, guys. It's just that that's how I feel about it. I spent like the last 6 years really making this channel into what it is. And I'm very proud of the work here. And I'm extremely, part of what makes me feel good inside about what I do is knowing that I'm being my authentic self, and that I don't promote people that I think are using face masking, even if they allege to use it to keep themselves safe. I don't play that. And If anybody wants to integrate with my content or ask me to be on their channel or for them to be on my channel or even to get mentioned, I need to know that they're a real person. Okay. And some of these people, they achieve way too much success, have way too many view counts. It's not jealousy, guys. I'm telling you, like, sometimes it's just masking. Okay. When you have to develop an organic audience from the ground up, it doesn't look like that. So I don't mean to be a dick when it says that when I'm asking about this, that's just how I feel about it. Okay. And it's because I've had to deal with the fakery for way too long. Again, I have to walk around with my face. There's too many fake people that don't have to do that. And then they don't have a right to use my channel or use my chat, as far as I'm concerned, as long as I have a say in it, unless I'm cool with them and it's been authorized in advance. Aside from that, I don't want my channel being used to draw more attention to fake or fake characters at all. So if I'm a dick about it, hey, whatever. That's just how things are. But again, I respect you. Don't take it wrong if I do what I do, but I don't want to lose my flow. So what I'm telling you guys is like whenever that happens, that jams me and it stops me. Okay. And I don't like it because it's a technique. So don't bring in fake characters, then go, hey man, why'd you do that? I'm not going to deal with it. I need to keep my flow going and I need to do this show. Beyond that, guys, it's a challenge right now to even keep this channel on the air. Okay. Just being straight up with you. The doesn't generate revenue. Again, I'm not trying to get rich doing this or anything else like that, but nobody's contributing really either. So I'm working full time and I'm doing this. And so I'm going to be very protective of the content, especially when I'm in a situation like that. I've got bills that are stacking up and no money coming in. And so the shills and the frauds don't need my help. They got plenty flowing into them. When you have to do this organically, it doesn't work that way. You struggle. So please don't ask me to give more attention. If anything, those groups need to be paying more attention to this channel. That's how I feel about it. Okay. Not the other way around. So what I'm going to start off with here, guys, is I'm going to show you some clips from my my occultism and Nazism playlist that talks about the cults and the face masking and how there's a connection between them. And before I do play this material, I'm going to start with one that you've already seen if you've watched my material lately, but it's not very long, but it needs to be reviewed so you can understand everything. And what I'm going to be doing is playing two clips here in a row. One is called The Love Family, Love is Real or Love Israel, Caves, Wineries, and Energy. And then the one I'm going to play after that is called Face Swap and Modern Psyops. Is RT America being manipulated by US-based Nazi occultists? The reason why I'm playing those two clips is they address two problems that are going on right now within the media in America. Number one, you have the ecosystem of MK Ultra, which has produced a couple generations, a few generations here that are heavily mind controlled, programmed, triggerable individuals, I would say, that have been raised in cultures who have normalized abuse, physical, sexual, mental. They are damaged people in many cases. And the sad part is that these are very, very oftentimes very gifted, very intelligent, naturally intelligent. Quite a few of them are very attractive people, men and women alike. I mean, these are just very people that would basically be able to light up a room if they wanted to and be able to completely darken a room if they wanted to. So you'll forgive me if my posture did one or the other when I first started this, guys, but it's because, yeah, I mean, this is real for me. And I don't want there to be frauds and fakes promoted here. That's all. So feel free to chat and everything. I don't want that to be a thing, but please, for God's sake, if you bring in a suggestion or a comment, don't give me one of these obviously fake names, even if their material's good. Email me, ask me if it's okay, and then we'll talk about whether or not we want to have a discussion about them in the chat. But when you first start in with me like that, that's probably the result is going to happen, just so you know. I'm not going to be friendly to it because it feels like it's a little bit of trolling, to be honest with you. Okay, just being real with you. So with no further delay, and again, guys, if you had been immersed in these cults the way that I did, if I'm going to talk about those cults and the way they use face masking, and the first thing somebody does is come into my channel and go, I think I'm going to present a character to you that's using face masking and trolling you, then I'm probably going to block you. Being real, that doesn't jive well with me, just to be straight up. So whether that was your intention or not, that's the effect it had. So I don't like being trolled. And since it's my room, I don't have to deal with it. Yay! Okay. So I'm going to share this clip with you really quick, and we'll get this rolling here. So what I'm going to start off with here, guys, is first we're going to do. Oh wait, I got to close out. I know why if everything's running sluggish, I know why. I've got like way too many apps open here, so let me close all this. Then I shouldn't be skipping around and having so many hiccups here with my feed. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Here we go. Ah, no, I'm not trying to do that. All right, there we go. Cool. All right, I think I got it now. There we go. Okay. Now we're cooking with fire. All right, so what this is about is I'm going to start with the love family cult. And so the reason why, guys, like, again, just so you know, if I respond that way, go ahead and send me an email and we'll work it out privately. But I don't want my flow to get blocked while I'm here on the stream. Okay, that's why I do what I do the way that I do it, just so you know. If somebody does, like, say, for example, my topic is going to be this thing where I go, okay, we have a problem in America where there's these like MK Ultra cults that I was raised around, and you actually suggest a character that's part of the ecosystem that I was raised around that trolls me regularly. I ain't saying that person does, but that's exactly who you mentioned. Okay. So if that's the way you're going to start when I'm first starting my presentation, I'm probably not going to be very friendly after that. But I'm open to you. If you want to send me a message later on and say this is what happened, then we can have a conversation and then we'll clear it up and everything will be resolved. So don't worry about it. Don't take it personal. I'm not trying to be a dick. All right. It's just the way I have to be so I can keep my flow. I've already wasted too much time talking about it. So let's get on to this. I'm going to do this presentation. What I'm going to start off with is, so some quick background for those who don't know me. I was raised in the Seattle, Washington area for the first 10 years. No, not you. Don't worry about it, guys. It's already been done and dealt with and addressed. It was in the first minute. So just chill out. No worries, guys. Seriously, nobody worry about it. So what I'm saying is that I was raised in Bothell, Washington, Seattle, Washington area. Okay. And this is where, if you're familiar with my story, part of my family was part of this Bothell, Washington neighborhood that was close to where this cult called the Love Family is from and originated. And what I've learned as I've gotten older in my life is that there was times where I had this cult of people all around me, but because I was too young to know what they were and to even understand what a cult was, let alone like how they do these things and what MK Ultra is, like I never knew any of those things. But I witnessed a lot of things growing up that then when I got to be an adult, I said, well, there they were. It was this cult. It was this group. And these were the kids that I was raised with. So now I've had to retroactively go back to my history from Bothell, Washington, Seattle, Washington area, the tag program that I was in as a child. And I realized that I was raised around a lot of brilliant and gifted kids in some cases, like when I was in the tag classroom, that were under like kind of a Nazi Lebensborn program of like, cultivating us, teaching us foreign languages, making us super intelligent, always taking IQ tests. Yeah, in fact, well, you guys have seen it, but like I could show you like that I was in a tag classroom and crap like that as a kid. It's not a big deal. It's not whatever. I'm not bragging about it by any means, but it just means that there was an effort to give us like a Nazi education and make us like mini Nazis or at least friendly to the Nazi agenda without even knowing it. And what I'm trying to tell you is there's that angle where you're kind of given a little bit of privilege almost. You get a better than average upbringing, a little bit more stable as far as like your places to live and, better, just better things, right? I mean, guys, my family was in Washington, D.C. when I was 5 years old. Sometimes you're in mansions with politicians at parties. But we weren't fancy like that our whole lives or anything. We lived a mostly normal suburban existence with a decent home, good education, that kind of thing. So it's more subtle the way that they do the things with people in the category that I was in. But they always have people that were raised like me, nearly always side by side with the ones that look like this. And hang on. Whoop. Okay. So I'm a pretty normal guy as far as like my existence. This is about as scruffy as I get. I've had long hair before, but not for very long. I wore it long for like a year. And but the guys that are all part of these groups, they typically kind of do this sort of hippie or just more rebellious Southern guy look or whatever it is. But it's not the look that I have. But I was frequently around the types of families that would be like this. So I would go like spend time in my grandfather's neighborhood. They were tons of Love Family kids in there. I just didn't know that they were that because the cult was disbanded by then. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because as I've gotten older, I've realized that now on YouTube, this cult is responsible, and as well as Children of God and Source Family, that's just like a sample of the cults that are the main ones that they've had influence going all the way back to the 60s counterculture era. And every generation, every decade, they know to be in the right place at the right time, defining the culture, specifically the counterculture. And they always put guys like me that get this really kind of vanilla, plain Jane type existence. They want us side by side with this Love Family cult that gets all the esoteric things, that gets all of their cool music. They're into more artsy movies. They're always kind of like the ones that are like the cool, mysterious ones, or just a little bit messed up, but you like them anyways, or they're a little bit like off and a little bit weird, but you're like, hey, I can handle this, no problems. They're different. Yeah, I like that. And I'm that way too, guys. I mean, it's not like I'm a snob or anything, but um, and I can hang with anybody of all types. I mean, that's not really the issue. It's just that this particular group had a lot of dark goings on that not a lot of people know about. So, without getting too deep into details, is more about the history of them, so that you understand like why I know about them and their trajectory and how they kind of fake being Jewish and all these other things, and that's kind of a part of their thing. And then after I'm done with that, I'll be playing an article about how these groups, once they stopped being able to use this as cover in the 80s and 90s, and we got into the internet era, they've heavily been implementing and using CGI, computer generated imagery, face masks. And so I'm going to give most people know how that works by now. So this is more of like a 101 for the next 20 minutes or so. You're going to see things about the Love Family cult. Then it's going to transition into their use of face masking face masking technology and how they've infiltrated media on all levels, guys. It doesn't matter if it's MSNBC, Fox News, any of those types of things, or if it's RT America. Doesn't really matter. They create fake CEOs, they create fake company owners, fake technical experts, fake engineers, all of it, guys, to pretend to be something that they're not, present themselves as experts on a news story as an analyst or a person that's out there reporting on it, when they're not doing anything of the sort. They're just making things up and then telling you what to think. And this is the ecosystem, and it leads back to the little neighborhood that I grew up in and some of the people that were surrounding me when I grew up. That's how I know. And this is going to show you. So next 20 minutes, that's what's going to happen. And if you've already seen the material, hey, come back in 20 minutes, or it'll be a good refresher. So be right back. Wait a second, guys. I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, I'm going to try to handle this as delicately as I can. And but basically, I was looking into the Love Family a little bit more, and I keep finding more material. involving their connections, involving real estate, wineries, vineyards, access to cave systems, their proximity to Nike missile silos. And in particular, out in Arlington, Washington, there's an article that I think it was in Seattle Times, but I have a clipping from it. But basically talks about how this family's been broke for a long time, and that they lost all their fortune, they had to split up everything and move to all these different parts. But I don't know how true that is. Just that as I'm kind of looking into things and where some of my research involving some of these families are, and realizing that I had some people from Love family that lived near me or were in the neighborhood where my grandfather lived, or lived next to us on the farm that I lived. I mean, really, there was a lot of them. And they never told me that they were part of this group, and I wasn't ever part of that group. So, since I can kind of identify the people a little bit from personal experience, I have to start asking questions. And I'm asking this honestly, and I'm trying to be respectful here because, in my history, I studied World War II and the effect that the Germans had on the Jewish community. And that part of our history really affected me. And I studied it for a long time when I was younger. So, when I find evidence potentially, well, let me put it this way: when I find this kind of the markers of things that might involve the mockery of Judaism and things like that, I have to ask a question: is that happening, or is it just that somebody doesn't understand that maybe perhaps what they're doing might be considered disrespectful to Jewish people, or is me even asking this question disrespectful to Jewish people? I don't know. So I'm asking. But basically, as I was kind of looking into their properties and things like that, it was purely because of the proximity to cave systems and tunnels and telecommunication things. Is why that I found them connected to this organization called the Union for Reform Judaism, and so I kind of looked into that, and it had some interesting markers on it. It's said it was founded by Isaac Mayer Weiss. But when I looked at the photo of Isaac Mayer Weiss, I kind of noticed that he looks like other characters that I find in other lore that doesn't seem entirely true, connected to other articles. And I'll get into that soon, because there's some companies out there and some organizations where I'm finding a commonality into the lore, which makes me think that there might be some people making up history and adding some things to Wikipedia that aren't true, which is something that I think most people kind of know and suspect already. And so I guess I'm just asking respectfully, I mean, is what going on here, is this something that's kind of like, did you actually, because the Love family, they actually would take on the last name Israel. And they said the reason why they did that wasn't because of the country or the religion. They said they were doing it because love is real. They were making a pun. It was like they were expressing that. So that's my understanding of it. And so if that's what they were doing, then it seems to me like they weren't becoming Jewish. They were actually just using it as a play on words, but I might be misunderstanding that. So when I find that at the Love family compound in Arlington, there's an address connected to the Union for Reform Judaism connected to them, I have to ask myself, if they're not like Jewish, then why would they be running a Jewish organization? Or even if they're people that converted to Judaism, I'm asking the Jewish community or people who might be like, part of those churches and deeper philosophical leaders, would it be appropriate for them to be running an organization to reform it? And I guess that people, whether they join a religion or they're part of it when they're born, they're still going to be reformers in all regards. But I'm just asking the question here to see if, is this something that, we should be concerned about? Is it a form of like Discordianism where somebody's just sort of using this as a parable, a drama to play out in front of people to teach them a lesson? Or are we dealing with something where it's more of like the law of reversal? Because if it's something that's more related to these Nazi occult groups, then what they would be seeking to do, this isn't big if, I'm not saying that's what they're doing here, but what a Nazi group would be doing would be to join a religion or to represent themselves as the religion and then subvert it from within using the concept of the law of reversal, where they basically join it, mirror everything, pretend to be it, and then they completely change the meaning of it in a very precise mathematical fashion. I mean, when I'm saying mathematical, I mean that by angles and everything. They take it in a complete opposite direction. And there's a precision to it that involves their form of occultism, which is sort of like a form of witchcraft. So if you've ever seen like pentagrams and triangles thrown together with weird sigils and symbols, that means something to them, and it's sort of a map to their esoteric work when they are occultists. So since the Love family does seem to integrate forms of occultism into what they do, and there has been tracers of OTO and Golden Dawn, I'm just asking the question. I mean, are we dealing with Discordianism? Are we dealing with of a benevolent source, or are we dealing with mockery of a Nazi occult type? And I'm asking this respectfully on all sides. And if there's a reason why they run this organization, or maybe that it's been mistagged to them or something like that, and I'm not correct, please tell me, and I'll correct this. But I'm just trying to understand what might be going on with this organization when it comes to this specific issue, only because even as a non-Jewish person, I just want to make sure that, we're all being respectful of one another's faith, regardless of somebody's different than us. And since I have had some of these people that have been close to me historically, I just want people to know that, I might even be a good person to have a conversation with both sides, if something disrespectful is happening. I'm not going to tell you that I know these people today. It's just that I do seem to have had a history with them. And actually, I don't necessarily know them today, but I can tell you that there's definitely markers to indicate that I have people from the Love family that stay very close within proximity to me, because they seem to be connected to members of my family. So just by virtue of that, I want to be open with people and tell you that that's a thing. But no, I don't seek out or have personal connections with them as a cult. So just full disclosure there. And by the way, that's why I'm a little bit unfriendly sometimes when somebody makes a suggestion to put one of these goons on my channel, because that's kind of how they do it. I love you. Your content's so amazing. You're so great. Hey, here's a fake character that's going to really trigger you. And then you look like an asshole for responding to it. That's classic Love family. It's trolling. So I'm not suggesting that person did it for that reason, but that's the effect it had on me. It made me think that you're a lot like those people. Just being real with you. If I'm going to be honest, that's kind of like the technique. Like, that's the content I'm starting with. It's like, so to start off with like, hey, how about this fake character? Wow. Just send me a message, seriously, like whatever. But, I don't know what to tell you. All right. Yeah, so just wanted to ask the question, and hope I'm not being disrespectful to anybody here, and thank you for listening. All right, so I've been talking about some of the media manipulation going on lately, and I wanted to kind of give an example of one way that it's kind of going on with RT America, which, for those unfamiliar, there's been kind of a narrative spun about how Russia's trying to subvert politics in the United States, which I don't personally believe to be the truth. I think what's going on here is that we have organizations that can really manipulate all the different perceptions from a distance, and while pretending to sort of blend in with all different groups. I think RT is a good example of this, because you can see some distinct differences between RT and RT America. And one thing that really called this to my attention was a story about this airborne pathogen, new blueborn hack commandeers your phone in 10 seconds by Nadir Israel with this company called Armis Security. The whole thing reeked of kind of a infraguard, kind of bogus security organization, kind of speaking out of the sides of their mouths, really about things that aren't truly technical concepts, but perhaps something else. And so that got me looking more into Nadir Israel as a person, and kind of looking at it: are they a real person? Are they a fictional entity? If they are a fictional entity, why might they be doing that? Because frankly, when I look at the footage, it looks a little bit fake. It doesn't look like a real person to me. And so when you add into that the psychology, or rather the methodology for his naming convention, just sort of like mimics what the Love family did with the, being the Love family Israel, naming them to one name and then the other. And then as I started tracking some of these companies and some of their parallels to other companies, I started noticing that they were, going back to Babel, and had some parallels to other names, and were crossing other people's names into this naming convention of Israel. So I'm concerned now that this character is potentially disinformation. So I at least wanted to go over this publicly in a way, because somebody kind of close to me kind of signaled out that the person that's doing this could very well be very close to us at the moment. And so I just wanted to put that out there. So I was able to trace a lot of those business records to various places, and specifically about, Armis. But the what I'm concerned about is that RT in Russia, like, they may not be
they may not understand what's going on, as far as this dynamic, because a lot of what they're doing involves colloquialisms that are specific to different regions of the United States. So some of the manipulation of the data that RT may be wanting to communicate to the United States may be actually being interceded by groups that have more Nazi occultist values and connected to these other groups. So it's just something to consider, because I do see a distinct, noticeable difference between RT as an international channel and the RT America content. And by the way, quite a few anchors on RT America do very good quality work too. So I don't want to dismiss, everybody out of hat. I think there's radical differences between the various anchors and correspondents you find on that network. And I think some people may believe that they're participating in something that's progressive when it's not, and it should be, mind you. So I think that parts of it are, but I also think parts of it are being subverted over to these other more Nazi occult principles, if you really look closely into the symbolism that's being used. And so how might this guy be doing this? Well, one way would be face swap technology that involves motion tracking, computer generated imagery, otherwise known as CGI. Some interesting parallels with those names, CGI, computer generated imagery. And, probably not a coincidence that the Clinton Global Initiative is also CGI, but that's another topic for another time. Not trying to get political or anything. But back to Armis. His credentials say that he's, they just feel bogus. They're basically validated through an organization called ISACA, which just seems like a cipher for SAIC, quite frankly, to validate one of their bogus companies, which they have. Well, in my opinion, I think that they seem to be, a lot of companies lead back to the same corporate headquarters. That's not even an opinion. I'm tracking a lot of companies that are connected to these things back to SAIC and Leidos' headquarters in San Diego and Reston, Virginia, and McLean and places like that. So, and I do have records on this, but that's a different topic. But more on Armis, since I think ISACA is kind of basically there to create perceptions around people, to like give them some false credentials. I'm a little bit concerned about his false credentials, because he kind of claims to be from the 82nd Hunted Army Division in Israel, and he claims to be a Google programmer. So, I don't really care if the guy lies about being a Google programmer, if that's what's happening. But if you claim to be in the Army when you're not, that is stolen valor, and that's considered pretty serious. And since I also noticed a disturbing trend of a lot of people that are creating bogus companies, and they call them online, they'll claim to be veteran-owned businesses. And since I've been having a hard time tracking a real human being to some of these companies, and I notice they use actors and fictional entities, I'm concerned a lot of times that they're stealing business away from veterans by claiming to be veteran-owned businesses when they're not. Because think about it, if there's 10 fake veteran-owned businesses, and there's 5 real ones, or 10 real ones, or 20 real ones, whatever, those other ones, they're all taking away from the business opportunities that a real veteran-owned business would be getting. So.
And really quick on that note, I hope, and again, I've put this information out to more than a few people. If you're a vet and you feel like this is something you want to do something about, I know where this person is. And again, this person actually got in my face and admitted they did this, that they were using CGI masking to play Nadir Israel. They do it very subtly, so they never actually orate it, but they got very much in my face, pointed it out to me in a way that was beyond obvious. This is a little bit of a hint here. Now, this particular character, literally the day that the news story came out on RT America, they were gone out of my presence for several hours, then suddenly reappeared and started bragging that they did this. Just being straight up. So I'll let you figure it out. That's just something that happened to me. This is experiential. It's very real. These Nazis get in my face. And I kind of know how they do it. They use CGI, computer generated imagery, face masking. They can do a lot of this on home computers with NVIDIA graphics cards that are high level, like really powerful video cards that do graphics processing for gaming. But they can also do mining of cryptocurrencies with those graphics cards. You can do high level special effects and face swapping with those graphics cards, all of it. And it is kind of a core piece of their technology hack. So a lot of times you think that you're looking at somebody on the news and it's who they say they are, when it's just a person that's seriously just looking straight into a camera, and it's way better than average face masking than you would typically expect. And they can do interviews on major media organizations and less significant ones. So Whether you're a Fox News or an NBC News or you're just RT America, matters not. They do this across the board because a lot of these interviews are done remotely. So when they're just saying like, "Yeah, we've got Nadir Israel from Armis Security to calling in from Tel Aviv," not so much. He was calling in from Oregon, and he ain't Jewish, and he doesn't look like that. And when you compare, this is where you need to get better about like spotting it, guys. The guy that did this, like he shows you this picture as him in Armis Security, but when you watch him on RT America, you know that that person is just masking because their physical likeness was so radically different from their face mask. So, for example, if you try to take a person, this is one good example. If the person has an eye issue, or they have a slack in their lip, or there's something where one side of the face does something that the other doesn't, for example. So say they got like a lip that does this, or their eye does this a little bit. You see what I'm saying? The software maps, it precisely maps the eye movements, the mouth movements, nose twitches, ear twitches, and it creates the mask around the person's real face. And so if the person that is the character has normal vision, or normal lips, or doesn't have like a double or a triple chin or something like that, when they attempt to wear the face mask, it's going to look weird. If the person has a really clean cut face and everything like that as their original mask, but the person that wears the mask has chins down to here, has an eye that does that, it's going to map like that when they do the interview. That's exactly what happened with the Nadir Israel interview. And you can link to it if you go to this article. You can actually see the original story. You know something? I think they banned RT America. Keep on rocking in a free world. Anyways, on to the rest of the story.
I'm concerned about that as well. And, so getting back to the footage, you'll notice that his face just doesn't track properly. And I've noticed this as it seems a little bizarre to me because here he is on the most watched news channel on YouTube right now is RT America. And the footage is very poor quality. He doesn't track properly, and it seems very low resolution for a person that claims to be a technical expert talking about viruses. It seems to me that you would have high definition 4K video, that kind of thing, streaming back to a professional news organization like that if you really were a technical organization. But that's an opinion. It just doesn't strike me as being very authentic. So when I researched them and their records, I just found a lot of anomalies, a lot of similar ciphers and fake naming conventions. It doesn't just limit to that. It's just that you see this common theme of people repurposing Jewish names and things in Hebrew. And the fact that he also filmed this clip on September 13th, which in numerology goes 913 if you're in America, or 139 if you're in Europe. I put a slide here. You notice that a lot of these same groups, when they're doing fake news or they're creating fake companies, they will pay homage to that segregation camp back in Tule Lake by signaling out 139 or 113. That is something that they've been doing, and I've noticed that. So I'm not telling you that that's what he did here. It's just that I have another reason based on something that somebody did to me to kind of signal out their intention to harm, that was in fact done for that purpose, and that's as much as I can expand upon at this moment. So further research found, a couple clips that Nadir had put out on the internet, if he is a real person, that just doesn't lend a lot of credibility to him as a security professional. In one, he's got this horse, bouncing on his head and a fan next to him. I think that he's signaling out that he's offering some other services there, but I couldn't tell you for certain. Again, it just feels fake to me. And so I just wanted to make sure that people understood that, I don't endorse fake characters like this, and I want them to be called attention to if that's what they're doing. Again, that's a big if. It's an opinion. And the reason why I'm concerned about this other thing is that it seems like he's kind of mocking Judaism here by pretending to be in Tel Aviv, Israel, and has this Hebrew or has this shawarma pit. And it's very weird that, it's like a pit that's like a gyro. If you have like a gyro sandwich, there's also called shawarmas. So he puts it in Hebrew on his YouTube channel. But if you do a translation, you'll notice that it says in today's shawarma. So, based on previous material that I've done, I'll allow you to draw whatever data correlations you like from that. But again, knowing that there's been people that are behind some of these things that signal out intention to harm, I just feel like that's worth noting to people who are in the know about how this works with occultists. So The other part that concerned me, okay, so it's one thing if I think the guy's fake, right? So then I find out who might be around him that's validating him. And then I find another character named Golan Benoni. I start going through his companies and just noticing that there just seems to be this, again, this aura of phoniness, and also of pretending to be Israeli or pretending to be Jewish, taking on the likeness of a Jewish person, and then validating companies or authorizing people or, giving them their go ahead that would be doing dark, destructive things. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not going to tell you that Nadir is, but his story does appear to be bogus. And so if he's pretending to be Israeli, he'd probably get another person who's pretending to be Israeli to do the same thing if they're a part of one of those Fourth Reich Nazi organizations that I've identified. And I have to tell you, in my personal opinion, up till now, they have all the markers of the same people connected to all the disinformation I've been talking to up until now. And I think you're going to find parallels to some of the same disinformation team that were connected to, like Harvey Weinstein and similar individuals. So again, that's very much an opinion, but what kind of backs this up a little bit is some of the bogus clips I found that appear to me to be bogus at the Black Hat conference. Because I got to tell you, every time I'm researching somebody that claims to be some kind of security expert or something like that, and I think that they're fake, I can almost always find a Black Hat speech or conference that they were at that kind of makes it appear as if they're a real person. But I don't know. It's just my opinion, but in my mind, if you're a real Black Hat hacker or a real White Hat hacker, why would you do public presentations in either direction? You probably wouldn't. You want to conceal your identity. So in either case, you have to at least be prepared to accept that people are using this technology to conceal their identities for security, for legitimate reasons, and also for cover to do very negative things. And so I don't want to ruin things for people that are trying to do something good, but at the same time, I have identified people that have malicious intentions, and they do appear to be connected to some pretty serious cult activity. And then once you get past that, they seem to be anchoring a lot of that cult activity to things that have very similar parallels to Zodiac killers. And then after you peel back that layer, you start noticing that really what that's about is Nazi occultism. It's anchoring symbols and numerology to Nazi symbols. So since I've identified a lot of these people as having that, and we do consider people in this country that are promoting Nazi values oftentimes to be terrorist organizations, I think that at least some of these things, whether I'm right or wrong, deserve to be some consideration. And mind you, if I am wrong, I would definitely correct this and pull this article down. I would love to have a face-to-face conversation with Nadir if he's a real person, so I can correct this, or Golan, so I could correct this if that would be the case. I wouldn't want to smear anybody or anything else like that. It's just that I keep finding things where I feel like we accept information, just because it has a good-looking, like video clip attached to it. We just all accept it on faith when there's all these technologies like face swap and things like that can mimic things very easily with graphics cards and even cell phones now. I mean, it doesn't even require that much processing power, but can you imagine what people that have high-end NVIDIA graphics cards can do in real time in VR lab environments using 4K video and things like that? I mean, they can really manipulate information, pretty realistically. And since I've seen signs and markers that appears to be done, and that some of those people using the principles of spheres of influence and what do you want to call it? Some of the other concepts I've discussed, maybe doing a lot of disinformation in the nearby vicinity, and specifically because they know that I'm a person that is trying to get the truth out. So you can understand as an occult work why that would be necessary for them to do. So I just want to put that out there for consideration of those who are in the know and understand what's going on. And I thank you for your time. And again, if I'm wrong about any of this, I'll definitely correct it and put up a correction to that effect. Thank you.
Probably ain't gonna happen anytime soon.
All right, this one's taking me a while to put together, but I just need to get
be straight up with you.
I've done some previous.
That article's been out for what, 3 years now, and I've yet to see this fake tech worker from that country come forward and admit that they're or show me who they are or anything, or contact me or say, why did you say that? Nothing. And it's because it's true. It's just that person does not look like that in real life. Nothing like that. They look kind of like Ronna McDaniel if she was like a really ugly guy, just to be straight up. That's who the real person looks like. So if you can imagine taking somebody who looks like that, turning him into a guy who's kind of a slob, and that's kind of what the real person looks like. So them trolling me when they did that was kind of like, it was aggravating as hell. Especially if you knew what was going on with me at that time. I was having like all I should have had like a lot of resources and everything. And like they put me in this sort of like technical freeze where I couldn't access funds of mine and I was kind of stuck in place for months. It was pretty much torture. And I wouldn't say I'm bitter about it still, but yeah, I fully intend to expose it as well as I can. That's the best thing I can tell you. It definitely motivated me to want to make sure that nobody could ever get away with doing that to somebody else. So, and all right, so let me see what we got here. I'm not sure if I want to play. Yeah, I really. All right. You should kind of know how long this goes back. And there is some material I've done on this topic that I don't think I've ever played in a live session before, but it's been put out there for years. I would just need to find it really quick. But before I do that, I want you to see my Twitter here today and what I've been talking about. Let's see. Okay, so how did this happen? What is the exact ecosystem of like, what's the explanation? Well, here's a clip with from a documentary called Secret Space, I think. I have to find the actual title of it. Um, and I can get anybody who wants it, I can find it and put a link to it inside the chat if you want me to. But basically, it's about an hour and a half long documentary that just details the roots of our space program from its inception here in the United States, what our relationship has been with Russia the whole time, and like on things like the International Space Station, what was the first satellite that went up. It's very interesting because most of the roots of these programs are completely hidden or the history is obscured and whitewashed. But basically, it's not that many of us who are actually telling it like it is, even though there's historical records to back up everything that I say and guys like David Icke says. It's still considered kind of like fringe information or conspiracy theory information when it's not. There's records associated with all of this. So when I make a statement like this on my Twitter and I say paperclip Nazis have owned America, America's perception of reality since they were imported into the United States and took over media and NASA. Keeping in mind, guys, NASA launches satellites. No modern television station exists without satellites. When you control the link that distributes the information, you own the information. You own perceptions. They've owned our perceptions as long as there's been broadcast satellite television. It's always been Nazis who own it. And if they're not owning it, they're creating, well, once the whole thing that NASA was a Nazi thing came out, they had to come up with a plan B. And what do you suppose that is? See, once you start to push back and go like, guys, we've got some Nazis in our system and we need to eradicate them. Well, then they knew that was going to happen at some point, that we would chase the Nazis out. So now what they're doing is they're staging the next layers to where you cannot easily delink from the same Nazi bloodlines. And they're going to privately own the space program instead of it being something that the government or a taxpayer can push back on. So that's why you might wonder, like, hey, dude, Elon's cool. Why you got such a problem with him? Well, I don't necessarily, but if he's one of these shills that's just owning a company for the Nazi bloodlines, then yeah, then it's not going to turn out well, but they're going to like reel you in, make it all look really cool, make him into a hero, make him into your savior. And then you don't seem to get that you're still in the same bloodlines. You're still in the same trap. You're still in the same NASA fakery that you were in before. So stop looking for Elon to save you in this one, guys. I don't care what he's done lately. It's just a bunch of shit. So that's what this is about, is understanding that.
Intelligence operation called Project.
Hang on.
What you had then was this CIA, British intelligence operation called Project Paperclip, which was to get the Nazis, the major Nazis, with all and a lot that with tremendous knowledge that are not registered by history, out of Germany so they would be safe, and into South America and North America to continue this agenda up to the present day. And so this is why you have Nazi after Nazi turning up as founders and creators of NASA and all these other institutions, the CIA, that appeared immediately after the Second World War. What you had then was this CIA, British intelligence operation called Project Paperclip, which was to get the Nazis, the major Nazis, with all and a lot that with tremendous knowledge that are not registered by history, out of Germany so they would be safe, and into South America and North America to continue this agenda up to the present day. And so this is why you have Nazi after Nazi turning up as founders and creators of NASA and all these other institutions, the CIA, that appeared immediately after the Second World War.
All right. So you got it, Patriot. You got it. You understand. The game at this point is effectively that they pretend oftentimes to have Jewish lineage. That way, when you discover the Nazism of what they're doing, they go, I couldn't possibly, I'm a Jewish actor. I couldn't possibly, my family was fried in the Holocaust. How dare you say such a thing? Oh my God, how I cannot believe the absurdity of that. You are disgusting. But then, like that, think about what you just said, Patriot, about, I'm not going to say their name because I want this chat to I want this whole thing to stay intact. And if I do that, they're going to come after this channel. But I'll acknowledge that what you're saying is spot on. Okay. So what that character is doing is playing this exact game, if you ask me. That's my opinion. I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. Look deep into that person. Like, you're going to see, like, they were doing everything that these Hollywood actors do here. It's basically like they elected Sean Penn to be their president. It's ridiculous. It's not even like some person that has more of a conservative thing, like a Reagan type person, or like, it is like ridiculously absurd that they literally made a movie about a regular person becoming the president of that country, and it's in their language. And then that's exactly what the person winds up doing. Classic Nazi. And then if you criticize it or suggest otherwise, they've got this whole fictional background with fake records that'll tell you that you can't criticize me like that. I'm Jewish, when they're not. I ain't saying he is or isn't. I don't know. I'm telling you, it is always their way. Then imagine the genius of this plan if you're a Nazi, because then you can go around your own country exterminating the real Jews while claiming this false outrage about how dare you criticize this. And then meanwhile, they blame the extermination on the Jews there and other places where they're responsible for it. They blame it on other places who they claim are doing Nazism. Do you see it? So I know people here do, otherwise you probably wouldn't even be here on this channel. Like, I know most of you see this, okay? Yeah. So again, guys, and it's not going to work. People are figuring it out. I like to think that I'm one of the people that have been pushing the needle the last several years, because this takes a lot of work, you guys. Like, trying to get people to understand this, you got to like do this in repetition and things like that, and constantly reinforce it, because it's like, it's hard for even like me. It's hard for me to even believe it sometimes. Like, I have to like snap myself back into like, no, this is the way it is. What am I doing? You start to warm up to some of their characters. That's psychoenergetics. It is. They know psychoenergetic, bioenergetic manipulation, how to artificially amplify their influence. And then they already have the voodoo, the psychotronic ways of doing it. Then they get media influence, which just reinforces the psychotronics, which is just, guys, it's just mind control. So why are you trusting somebody that seems to be from one of those bloodlines and is just doing nothing but launching more of this shit up into the sky that points down at you? It doesn't just do data. It can literally hit you. So why is there the needs for so many of them to provide data when they don't really have a huge customer base? Not going to get into detail, guys. I already talked about that yesterday. And if you want to know about the secret space program thing, I'll show you right here, because this is relevant, guys. This is why you have to understand this part. Hang on. So let me show you the screen again. All right. So I posted today on Twitter, I said Disney founder Walt Disney was with captured Nazi SS scientist Werner von Braun, in case anyone questions the validity of my assertion that Hollywood has partnered with Nazis in America to transform our culture since 1945. It is Nazis who are pushing World War III right now, not us, not United States. It is a Nazi infiltration where they have lots of control over our information flow and can represent themselves as us. They're doing to us what homeboy over there is doing to his country. Do you understand that? I know a lot of you do. But check this out. If you've never seen this, then you should. That would be one Walt Disney right there, and that would be one Werner von Braun, Nazi SS. Says Walt Disney and von Braun, seen in 1945, holding a model of his passenger ship, collaborated on a series of 3 educational films. So again, Nazis educating children in 1954. Hey, come on over from Nazi Germany, you Nazi SS, and hey, why don't you join Disney and teach our kids about space travel? Great idea, everybody. Wow, what could go wrong? Oh wait, we're witnessing it right now. We're living in what went wrong. You see what's going on at Disney? What are they doing? Okay, that's Nazism, guys. That's Nazism. That's why all those kids are raised in, like the Mickey Mouse Club. That's why what's going on with Britney's happening with Britney. They want you to accept slavery right in front of you. They want you to accept that it's okay to keep that, her in this sort of like pseudo celebrity status with some degree of wealth, but effectively a prisoner for several years right in front of everybody. That's classic Nazism. Containing somebody's energy, containing their spirit. Surrender to the Americans, in case you're like, was he a real Nazi, Gabe? Yeah, he was a real Nazi. There he is. Von Braun with his arm in a cast, Walter Berger, and Bernhard Tessmann. That looks like Taseman. Interesting. Hard Taseman. Anyways. Surrendered to the Americans just before this 3 May 1945 photo. So there's von Braun surrendering as a Nazi SS soldier. He was Nazi SS because they don't give normal people those long leather coats like that. The Nazi SS had that leather, if that's what that is. And he was SS. You can read his entire bio. And guys, the problem we have in America is that people don't really get it because it's been so normalized. And, you need only go, hang on. Well, I'm not going to look up Werner von Braun right now. I don't want that to be the whole focus here. But the point is that this has been going on a while. And that's why when you see Sean Penn over in Ukraine allegedly doing things for Vice magazine, I mean, is he? I mean, is that really what that is? Or is he over there as a writer, producer, director, actually creating the narrative that we're all viewing back here? Is he just another one of the Hollywood staff that brings over the rest of his Hollywood staff and tells us all what we should be thinking here? Because you can't go there. I can't go there. None of us can really go over there, shoot footage of our own, then bring it back home or transmit it back home without Nazis being involved. They're always in between. All right. All right. So with that, if you didn't see my article today, I posted some content about this exact topic. So I showed you what I did earlier so that you could see that there really is a whole, what do you call it? There really is an ecosystem. There's a method of people to do face masking. I've seen it happen okay, guys, I have to rephrase that. I did not witness the person actually doing the face masking. They simply did it, returned back to where I was, trolled me basically by showing me the story more than once, and then kind of rocking back and forth, giggling and kind of like following along in ways that there's no way they could have unless they were involved. That was their way of letting me know that they did it, and that if I'd ever told anybody, they would never believe me. But if I could get the right people to look into this, that actually did their job at the FBI, for example, that would be a whole different thing. Unfortunately, because Nazi, that's a little bit challenging. Yeah. So all right. So Yeah. I'm trying real hard here to be nice. All right. Please make it easy. That's all I'm gonna say. Here are all my Twitter posts on the Sean Hannity, Sean Penn, Joaquin El Chapo, Guzman connection summarized in a 10-minute video. Hope it helps foster a greater understanding of Mockingbird journalism and the Love Family Cult Crisis Actor Network. Ascension now. All right, so I'm gonna play this for you. Oh, wrong one. Hang on. I'll be right back with it. On attempt 3 here to make this presentation, and I keep having things happen, but we're going to do this. All right. Let's take a look at what's going on. Okay, there it is. Yeah. So look, really, before I play this, guys, I showed you those 2 articles on the Love Family cult and CGI masking so you understand. I know how like it leads from my experience as a non-celebrity going back to childhood, how families that are close to me that have more of the government jobs. They get to be engineers, technicians. A lot of times they have normal suburban existence and sometimes even upper class existences for a long time or middle upper class existences. Ours wasn't that glamorous, guys, but we definitely had some privilege and some nice places to live at different times in my life. And we had some struggles for here and there too, but I would say we were pretty blessed as far as things that we had provided for us. It's just that the normalization of these things and the things that you witness, it's like I feel like part of what was done with me is like I didn't really experience horrible things myself that would really shock anybody individually. The things I witnessed, the things that I actually saw with my own 2 eyes, and the things that I know for a fact happened and were allowed to happen within these networks are what motivates me. And it's because I've learned the reason why the secret is kept about the child abuse, the predators, the pedophiles, is because that was part of their way of controlling the people that you now see in Hollywood, oftentimes that are now journalists, sometimes that are the Mockingbird journalists. They begin as people that have these extremes. They're either raised like me and they get MK Ultra and other ways that are more friendly, more of a soft MK Ultra. And then they have the ones that go into the breeding cults that are like children of God. You've heard probably stories about them beyond what I've done. I don't even talk about them very much. My experiences with the Love Family cult and the Church of Jesus Christ at Armageddon, and they were the ones that were in Bothell, Washington, where I was. And they have lots of the more B-level film actors, people that you haven't heard of as much. They're the more character actors. That's where there's the heavy use of the CGI masking. They make movies with their fake faces of all varieties, low budget, high budget, even adult films, all of it, guys. Oftentimes done with face masking technology. They keep the secret in ways where if somebody tries to leave the network, they're devastated. They go full on Scientology harassment for these people that try to escape these mind control systems and cults. So you're born into something that you never asked to be a part of, and then when you try to leave, you get hit from all sides. So I'm saying this to acknowledge the people that have gone away from those things. Like, I don't always know what side you're on, and I could understand if you were like questioning me at times. That all would make sense to me. But I would encourage anybody that really would want to like escape that and has a means to do it, that, I'm not a bad person to like at least review this material so you can see just how much I do understand it. Um, the thing you got to understand about these people, a lot of them, is that They are out there right now doing some pretty horrible, awful things. Okay. But and this isn't a but for excusing them, it's just to let you understand something. MK Ultra is a very real thing. A lot of them had vibratory frequencies that literally would shake their body day and night as children that were like tuned into them. Things that sort of replaced organic brainwave. I discuss it in my psychoenergetics material about how it works. They literally have things that remove them from organic brainwave and hive them into somebody else's. And so, like the church or the cult leader and things like that, to where by the time they get to be like, where they can get out on their own, they still have this sort of mind trap. It's very difficult for them to even question the environment they just came from. They've been programmed. They got light flicker, they got tones, they got radio frequency entrainment, electromagnetic pulse, all of it. Subtly and very light amounts, barely noticeable, and then slowly integrates, gets stronger and stronger over time, incrementally doing it. Now, at this point, most of us exist in this environment just by virtue of technology. And it's becoming increasingly easier for them to use mind control on the broad population using satellite technology. Less, guys, I mean, the towers can definitely do it. I was a radio frequency engineer for 20 years. I'm aware. I'm telling you, though, that as a radio frequency engineer, I never bared witness to anybody saying, we're going to aim this at those people to do that to them. They were always there to provide communication networks to people. But when it's spot beam telecommunications, meaning to say, like, if it's somebody that's advertising that they could be up here in the sky, aim a signal down that you could get your data on a transmitter or a dish, I would just like you to understand, if they're able to deliver that experience to your unique device in a way that your dish gets spot beamed it and can unpackage it, they can certainly do that to your house where it doesn't even link to the dish. And it just simply tunes into the copper wiring in your home and makes it go. See what I'm saying? This is something that would be very difficult to challenge or understand its origins. And you have to ask yourself, why are these rich billionaires suddenly going, F all that? I want to put as many of these satellites and get up into the space as I can. It's the next echelon, I guess you could say, no puns or references intended necessarily, of mind control. If you don't believe this, then ask yourself, why is everybody believing this character? Why, no matter how much evidence you put in front of their face that this person's probably fake? Again, it's circumstantial, but if you really know how these networks work, none of these people were born with these names. So it feels fake. You kind of know intuitively, like, no one was born with that name. Yeah, you're right. They weren't. It's a cipher. It's a cryptogram. Their name itself is part of the MK Ultra. Okay. Now, translate that over to how you get television station signals to them, satellite communications. You'll understand what everybody has in common. The media, whether you're a Mockingbird journalist like Sean Hannity or any of the other shills, guys, I'll say it equally about Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! So please don't tell me that I'm a person that's criticizing your favorite conservative. I actually lean a little bit more conservative now, to be honest with you. I don't consider myself anything, but like when I did that article before, I thought, well, there should be a progressive outlet, and I guess there should be, guys. I like to see all groups represented, but it really is just that they take everybody's belief system and they just invert it and make them all believe the same thing anyway. So why is it right now that no matter how much evidence you place in front of people's faces, so many people believe that SpaceX narrative and all that crap going on with the Twitter buy? Why are people even believing this crap? I just don't even get it, but I do. What explains it is psychotronics. Psychotronic methods of changing behaviors, changing values, changing opinions. Okay. So this article here, if you already saw it today, don't worry about it. I guess you could come back or whatever, but this is about the Sean Penn, Sean Hannity interview. Now, this doesn't like strike you as bizarre. Watch this article and you'll kind of understand, because you may remember Sean Penn also was the guy that broke the El Chapo cocaine trade story. And we're all supposed to believe, guys, that old Sean Penn, this is where there's a total lapse of logic. All right. We were asked to believe, and the population did, because it was presented to us as reality, and they've learned that that's all it takes. Rolling Stone said so. All right. I get it. We all know that they kind of like tweak stories or exaggerate them. I'm just telling you, top down, that is 100% fiction. There was no kingpin with that name. That person you saw is an actor. It is there to create a spooky story to scare anyone away from it. Because ask yourself, if you're in charge of a global cocaine ring, are you going to interview with Sean Penn? Really? Seriously? Now, maybe you have an ego. Maybe you're just like, whatever. Maybe you snorted too much. Maybe you got high on your own supply, as Scarface says. And you suddenly decided it was a good idea. Don't you suppose that all the other kingpins that do business with said kingpin would go, what the fuck are you thinking, dude? You're going to go interview with some celebrity and put our entire operation at risk? Doesn't that sound just like, guys, just think of it as a movie a little bit and ask yourself, would ever somebody who was able to acquire that much power and do that many things ever take the risk of just needing to have so much celebrity that they invite Sean Penn and have him put a bag over his head and travel through Mexico and all this other crap? Does that make sense to you? It shouldn't. Yet, even when people thought something was off, almost nobody ever said, top down, that must be bullshit. That's where you need to get to. Not just saying, I think he made up a few things or exaggerated this or that. No, no, no. The person doesn't exist. He is doing reality manifestation with the very story, making you believe this person exists. He's a lore designed to scare people away from investigating. Oh, don't go there. This will happen to you. It's just bullshit. It's run by actors. And some of the people that are actually running it are the biggest pussies alive. They're not badasses. They don't have cartels. Some of them are just living humble suburban existences and making you believe something that isn't true. I guess that's better than the other thing, but see, having you in the state of fear is the problem. Keeping you all believing it and pumping your money and your faith and whatever into it, that's the big problem. A little deception, I don't like at all, but again, I could almost understand it if it had a better reason. It doesn't. It's just a way for the actual people who are supposed to be enforcing the law to be the dealers. Seriously, it's the FBI, the DEA, the mafia, the ones that they all have with their Nazi connections. They're running the drug trade. They're running the human trafficking trade. They don't want you looking into it, so they try to create narratives that are scary. All these movies that come out that tell you this is what's going to happen. This is how it is. But if you ever did your own investigation, you would learn that no, they're just making it up. It doesn't mean there's not violence surrounding these things. There's some real consequences to it. Of course there is. It's just not the one that they're presenting to you. Okay? That's because they're managing it.
Going on right now with old Sean Penn, man. Why is Sean Penn so close to something like the war that's going on right now overseas? And he just happened to be the guy that interviewed Joaquin El Chapo Archibaldo Guzman. Yep, the cocaine kingpin, who was introduced to him by Kate Del Castillo, who told him, hey, Castillo, or hey, El Chapo, you need to go traffic with love. That's her little quote. Now, I want you to remember that because a lot of my material surrounds the love family cult and how they're basically historically been a front for other trades, illicit trades, okay? They pretend to be ridiculous cults. The original live-action role play was the love family cult. The original live-action role play was the Children of God. It was the Source family. Again, they're genuine cults. They bring in people who really believe it, but then they turn them all into these actors, okay? That's how the system works. Then they get roles in Hollywood. Then they get roles as journalists, mockingbird journalists, people that are there to either think they're telling the truth but actually lying, or they are willfully deceiving, okay? So Sean Penn, he travels over there, creates a whole narrative as the producer and director while pretending to be a reporter for Vice magazine. Got it? Okay. He's not reporting anything. He's manufacturing consent, manufacturing narratives to get more people over here to jump on board for that, because that translates to big distraction overseas and you don't pay attention to what's happening here. You don't do anything about human trafficking and all the drug trade here. You disregard all those things because you're so distracted and all of our resources are being thrown across the world. Always distraction away from what they themselves are managing here. So, of course, Sean Penn is going to work with Sean Hannity, because Sean Hannity always wears a CIA lapel. Okay, and I'm going to show you that in a second. Sean Penn is a CIA front for cocaine trade narratives, in my opinion. Okay, now this guy going over there and happening to interview Joaquin El Chapo Guzman is one of the most ridiculous narratives that has ever been presented to the public that they wound up believing I have ever heard. I cannot believe that anybody authentically believes that this actor, okay, a very high profile actor, got to interview a real cocaine kingpin, because he's not. He never was, okay? Now, scroll down. Sean Hannity is a deep state shill. When will people learn? Just because someone is saying many things you agree with does not make them right or on the right side. These asshats pretend to dislike each other the same way professional wrestlers do. So all I'm telling you guys is, this is as much a tense moment between these two guys as a liberal and a conservative as two professional wrestlers are when they get out inside the ring and go, grrr. They're buddies backstage. Just like these two guys are buddies because they're both actors. Sean Penn's an actor. Whoever this guy is, he wasn't born with that name. He's an actor, okay? They're actors. Managing your perceptions. This is an article I did. Our media has been run by paperclip Nazis pretty much since its inception. You don't make it to Hannity's level unless you play the long game. It's not rocket science. They mirror what their opposition is doing, then shove the organic thought leader out. That means that if there's a person out there that's really telling you the truth, what they're going to do is precisely follow, mirror, and be side by side and do whatever they can to gain access to your influence to the audience. They literally are actors. They're very good actors. They're from families of actors, and they're always managing the news. Yes, you're used to seeing them in movies, but now it is becoming increasingly obvious that they're also producing and directing narratives that wind up being news. So it's not news, it is false narratives, fake news, and it's Hollywood producing it. And if you can't see that that was true about the cocaine trade in El Chapo, then you won't see what he's doing right now overseas. You understand yet? All right, here's how it works. The reporter.
Okay, so I just wanted to find a quick and easy way to explain Nazi occultism in a way that adds a little humor, but without taking away from the seriousness of it. But at the same time, this is a really good example, right? So in the movie Animal House, there's a scene at the end of the movie where they decide they're going to sabotage the parade, right? And so they all wait at the end of the parade for the band to come down, right? And so these two guys are kind of waiting there for their moment. And as the band leader and the band approaches, one of the guys goes and starts marching, along with them, and then he starts catching up with the conductor, and he just kind of marches it right at the same pace, kind of follows them along one after the other, just mirrors him precisely, right? He's different, but he's mirroring him very precisely, and you notice he shoves him over, and then just at the right opportunity, he waits for the baton to land into his own hands, and now he has
okay, that guy right there that just shoved the band leader out of the way and starts steering the narrative, think of that as Sean Hannity and Sean Penn.
Placed the organic leader of their movement, and the Nazi has taken over. Once he takes over, he subverts the parade. They should be going down the street, but no, he says, let's go down this alleyway instead. Now, I wanted to show you this as a quick example because I've been having a hard time explaining, I don't really find the term Nazi occult mirroring and things like that online, so I'm trying to find a way to explain it. What's the best way to describe this concept? And this is it. They follow along side by side, match exactly what they're doing, behave like they do, and then just at that right moment, steal the baton away, shove them down, and that is Nazi occult mirroring.
All right. So now that we covered that, let's get back to this. Back to Sean Penn and Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. The real cocaine kingpin lives a normal suburban existence, blending in with the rest of you. Guys, they are nobody to fear. This whole thing that they tell you to be all spooky and scared of and create all these news narratives about how horrible it is, it's not really the way it is. They use crisis actors. They create scary Mexicans that are managing all of this, but it's not being done that way at all. This is a managed narrative. He never existed.
If he did, I promise you, DEA agents would never be seen in the same photo as the guy while they're arresting him because they would be too afraid. They know not to be afraid because he does not exist. It is them managing it. It is the very agencies that pretended to arrest El Chapo that works with Hollywood actors like Sean Penn and their embedded Mockingbird journalists like Sean Hannity and steer everybody into a fear matrix to get you all to be, oh, no, I can't talk about that. Yes, you can, because none of these things are real, okay? It never existed this way. And if you're not convinced yet, just look how absurd this is. Mexican actress Kate Del Castillo, who plays a queenpin of cocaine on a series in Mexico, she also did a whole stint playing a drug dealer on the Weeds television series. Very heavily involved, many of the producers behind Weeds, into these fake narratives. The Mexican actress tells drug kingpin to, quote, traffic with love. Well, guys, that's code. That's code. See, Sean Penn is very closely connected to these cults that are like the Love family, called the Church of Jesus Christ at Armageddon, from Seattle, guys, Washington State, Alaska, Hawaii, and Bothell. And if you're wondering why I know all these things, well, guys, I was raised about a third of a mile away from a Nike missile silo called S-03-LS in Bothell, Washington, where quite a few of these Love family crisis actors originate from. And yeah, I've got records to prove it, all right? This is what they mean when they say traffic with love. This is Dadaism. This is Discordianism. They do things that are called live action role plays and false flags in front of everybody that steer you all into these weird narratives that you don't fully understand. They're ridiculous by design. There is none of the things behind this drug trade or what's going on overseas that is even based a little bit in reality. It is a 180 inversion of how things actually are. That is the whole point, guys, ladies and gentlemen. These cults of actors that to this day take on this appearance because they can blend into both leftist and right-wing movements. They can pretend to be a guy from the South named, Billy Bob, and they could pretend to be, some liberal, yoga guru with, health food and everything else like that. They can fit into both scenarios, okay? But they're crisis actors. They don't even believe in the religions that they promote within their cults. This one in particular has heavy, heavy Nazism embedded into it, but they do rainbow festivals, garlic festivals. Peace, man, here's a flower. They are actors. So please, this is MK Ultra 2.0, 3.0. Once you've uncovered all that, remember, Hollywood is taking over where the infrastructure is leaving off. That way they can normalize all of these crisis actors to make them seem like they're the next big heroes telling you the truth, but they're from the same bloodlines that go back to Operation Paperclip, 1945. Your perceptions have been managed by Nazis. Wake up, Neo. Ascension now. God bless.
All right. Hang on. All right, I'm here. All right, so there's some good questions here in the chat. So if you have thoughts on that, feel free to share them. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I just want that out there. I want that material to be out there so that people can just sort of just stop. Guys, you need to know what I just told you about that story that Sean Penn was involved in before to know why he would be over in Ukraine. That's all. If you know that he did this here to trick us, then what's he doing over there? And why? Who's protecting who and for what reasons? Who really has their belief systems? Who actually thinks what they think? I don't buy for 2 seconds that Sean Penn has been hoodwinked and actually believes what he's promoting. I just don't. I mean, I think he believes in the agenda because he's calling for some pretty serious things to go on. It seems almost like Sean Penn and Sean Hannity were agreeing on the use of nuclear weapons, trying to get us into World War III. Do you know who would be interested in getting us into World War III right now? Nazis who've been caught. Nazis want World War III right now. because they've been trying to slowly create their third and fourth Reich within the United States and most Western nations. And they're going against the one major superpower that pushed them out and has been at war with them ever since they stopped being at war with them. You know who. That's the real deal. You know, over there in Russia, they've got something called Victory Day, where they actually celebrate their defeat of the Nazis. Nazis hate Russians. Russians hate Nazis. So all the Nazis can do at this point is to create narratives like they always have here in our own country, so they can finish what they started. And that's kind of how they view it. They're playing the long game. They literally plan things for 1,000 years at a time. Never forget that part. So Samuel asked here a good question, so we can get on to whatever other topic here, and I'll try to answer it, but hang on. So Samuel says, how frequently and at what scale are psychotronics used? Weren't they used and tested during one of the Rwandan genocide? I don't know. That I don't have an answer to as far as, excuse me, sorry about that. Wrong button. Yeah, I don't know exactly about the Rwanda thing. I don't know if they were used for that. You would have to cite an article for me that I could review, and then I could answer that question better. But as far as the use of psychotronics, the evidence is in the documentation that I've gone over. Actually, I'm glad you said that, Samuel, because what I need to do is less time on this crap that I just did. Honestly, guys, I don't want to keep talking about these things. It's just that I feel like they just keep getting like, it's preventing people from their ascension that they keep believing this. To me, it's kind of important. To me, ascension is like salvation. It's like having all the things involving, you know, the Christian values of redemption and forgiveness and everything else like that. I mean, it is a Christian thing when you get down to it. It really is. It's the Holy Spirit. That's the universal plasma field. And so when you're these people here, guys, you're the kind of person that believes that, like, you know, that you can be God and you are in charge of the plasma field, and it's what you do to bend it. So when you see Sean Penn and Sean Hannity, they don't have they're not at one with the creator. They're not part of the Holy Spirit or anything else like that. They're saying, no, I can change things. I can bend it this way. I can make you believe this and them believe that. They think that we're all stupid. And you know something? We're not stupid. America's not stupid. The rest of the world's not stupid. I know we love to say that, but no, Americans really aren't that dumb. We've just been indoctrinated into this like for years, over and over again, having it constantly driven into us to the point where one day when somebody started challenging what we believed, we're like, what? No, that's not true. That's my favorite artist. That's my favorite musician. That's my favorite singer. That's my favorite director and writer. And we got offended. Well, that was the whole point, guys. That was the whole point. They made themselves our royalty. They made themselves our favorite artists, our favorite movie directors, our favorite television shows. So that by the time we got to this point, we'd be like, no, I can't accept it. And they've translated all that celebrity culture over to Elon and freaking Jeff Bezos. It doesn't work with Bezos, only except for a certain position of people. But like with Musk, like so many people buy this on all sides. It's just strange. It's just bizarre. I think he's greasing people or funding them or something, man. And they just don't want to see their angel investor funds go away that he's probably giving them. If I had to guess, that's got to be it, guys. Because there's people that I know have way more integrity, or I thought they did, that just you can't get them to believe it. And I don't think that that's like a mistake or that they're that dumb. I think some of these people really do know what's up. And so again, another one from Samuel saying, I remember Mind War by Aquino and learning that the mass psychology is influenced more or less depending on all sorts of natural variables. Speaking of, do you think Aquino's actually dead? I tried to answer that question in the chat here, but I'll tell you, if in case you can't read it, yeah, the Aquino thing. So again, if you know anything about Aquino, he knows everything about, like, beyond probably the things that I do, because he actually had access to the military and was one of the people that were probably keeping it the secrets if you accepted his stories true. And you know, if he did write most of the mind war, the psychological warfare doctrine for the United States like he did, and you accept all of his stories at face value. If you don't know who he is, what I would recommend you do is go look up a story, an interview between, of all people, Sean Stone. Weird how there's so many Seans involved with this. It's so bizarre, but it actually really is a good interview. So Sean Stone is the guy who, he's Oliver Stone's son, in case you don't know. He has a show that he used to do before he was on RT that was called Buzzsaw. It was something I think he individually produced with a small group of people that was just a one-on-one interview show where he would usually do like 30-minute to hour-long interviews. And he has one that's like 2 or 3 parts with Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino. And so all you'd have to do is look up, Sean Stone, Buzzsaw as one word, Buzzsaw, and then Aquino, Aquino, and you could find it. But it's a little bit hidden. I mean, like, you kind of got to do maybe some clever web searches, and maybe not. I don't know. I just noticed that Aquino information can be hard to come by if you're not really doing the right search things. And there's more than one Michael Aquino, so that makes it even more confusing. You said, were these Nazi cults present in Hollywood before WW2? Did they always identify as Nazi, or is Nazism just one of their many cloak ideologies they adopt? That's a good question, Dalton. Yeah, to me, look, I mean, it depends on what you think a Nazi is. Like, if you think they were something that just came about when the Nazi Party came about, then I would have a different answer. But what I think is the Nazis is an ancient society. They go back hundreds of years, and what they've been doing is, if you understand bioenergetics relative to DNA the way that I do, there's people within DNA, within bloodlines, that I call super delegates of bioenergetic influence. That's kind of one of my key terms. Okay, what does that mean? So the average person has a biofield that would extend and influence certain people within their surrounding. They're very, and I would say there's different factors of bioenergetic influence. Some people excel and create a very strong field near them. Literally, it's an invisible field. You can measure it, though, with Correlian photography and then like the BioLGDV system, things like that. But the strength of their biofield is exceptional at influencing those closest to them. And then you have these other people that I call super delegates of bioenergy, that they're just like these huge fountains. Like, these are people that have very high psychic potential. These are people that are oftentimes trained shaman or faith healers, or even witchcraft practitioners. They have learned, and they have something within their DNA, because it's kind of a twofold thing. There's things you do when you're the blood group that just happen and you don't even know. And then when you train and actually tune that ability and actually amplify it, it's way easier to be what I call the super delegate of bioenergetic influence, which means that instead of just having really strong influence around the people that are near you within your sphere of influence that's close to you energetically, you can actually witness them, see them, feel them, have their voices are heard by you. Those people have, whatever, that's their scope of influence. That literally, when you think about thoughts become things, you have to think about each person as more like a computer that pushes out plasma. I shouldn't say they push it out. The universal plasma field flows through the human body. The body has body voltage, body electricity. And so the plasma field is bendable through every human and the experience they share by pinging back and forth, human to human, plasma field to plasma field. So that's how things come into physical manifestation. And again, guys, all I'm doing is explaining something as simple as, like, people that meet together think up like what a building should look like. An architect writes it down. Then they start meeting every week, assigning engineers, technicians, construction crews. Then those people go on and build the building. That's manifesting something into physical reality through the biofield. It begins as an idea. No one's even put down any foundation. They haven't laid any cement. They haven't done anything with the boards, the walls, the plaster, everything else like that. None of it's been done yet. So if you don't agree with me, then ask yourself, is there anything that has ever become into physical manifestation without it starting here and then being shared with another person? And then the node, the flower of life, They keep going, yes, I agree with that idea. It forms into a larger one, larger one, larger one, until it actually vibrates into physical resonance and we all perceive it as being here. It's magic. Everything that gets built really is a magic working if you really get down to it. Okay. So so when you ask the question about were these Nazi cults present in Hollywood before WW2? Yes. And I would say that you have to go back further. You're gonna have to get into like Blavatsky, you know, and what is it? They practiced. They were the Thules, and then once you go past the Thules, the Thule Society, you got to keep going back, back, back. My personal belief, and I saw somebody kind of validate this, what the Nazis really are closer to the Khazarians, and their cover is to make themselves look like they're about doing this sort of what do you want to call it? Like they're trying to create some pure race that's all Norwegian looking. I mean, yeah, they were trying to get that group and they wanted in and they wanted to influence them, but it's always been a fallacy that it's about this sort of blonde-haired, blue-eyed thing. It always has been, guys. Even Hitler himself was brown hair, brown mustache, dark eyes, all of it. So it's always been absurd. What it truly is about, really, when you get down to it, is they want all the people that are those bioenergetic influence people that, like, when your cloud radiates out, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't finish that. They literally look for people that have the biofields. It is a key aspect of what they do because everything, once you get past money and everything, is just human influence. The more you can make things happen and bring about into physical reality or get other people to think something, the more valuable you are to them. They see people the way somebody goes into a gold mine and it takes ore out. They're always looking for the biggest chunk. They're doing it within the human condition. Here in the United States, this manifested as CIA cult, the Finders. The Finders cult went around looking for these kids. They would kidnap them, bring them back to the cults, raise them under physical, psychological, mental abuse. Then, once they get to be an adult, they're fully tuned into the Nazi agenda. And they took them from all races, all different groups, all different religions, but they would especially want their opposition. People that think the opposite of the Nazi agenda, they want their offspring. They're going to make them their own. They're going to program that child to believe what the Nazis believe, because this is all about the long game, the Reich, the 1,000 years. It's about bringing all that influence into their bloodline that does not organically belong to them. They do that by marrying into the bloodlines that are Judaic, that do have the Basque origins, other types of bloodlines that are Welsh, Basque, what else? There's quite a few of them that have a high level of these Rh negative and O blood types in particular, in high percentages. They really want those, and it's really less about specific ethnic identity and more about getting their genes folded into a Nazi value system than eradicating the ones that won't be Nazi. It's not rocket science when you get down to it. So as far as like, you know, did they always identify as Nazi? No. I think that there was something that they were before then. Some literally, I think you could argue that they came from the Ashkenazi Jews who actually, if you really look into the history of them, guys, what they did was invert Judaism and kind of pretend to be it. I'm not trying to make any assessments towards anybody that way, guys. There's a lot of arguments that go in that direction. But it starts off that you have things that are like, and again, I'm not an expert in Jewish things, so I would want to get somebody that, you know, is more orthodox, or, you know, I would trust a little bit more with that to correct me. But my understanding is that you have like the Torah and you have the there's a Torah and the Talmud. Okay. And so people that I think are more associated with traditional Judaism would I believe follow things that are more the Hebrew language, and the Torah would be their religious doctrine. And if I'm not mistaken, what the Khazarian sort of Ashkenazi form of it did was kind of like what I just explained to you, what the Nazis do to everybody globally. It's about, okay, you have what we want. You're getting this sort of knowledge from your blood group. You're these bioenergetic super influencers. We know that about you. And so what sorry guys, I don't mean to like, I'm not trying to take on their likeness, guys, but it's like that ideology that they have. They seek it out. They're going for that. Okay. They want them And then if they can get like some of them to marry into their families, the whole game after that is being really nice to them and everything else like that, getting their offspring. And then once the offspring has gotten to the age where it's influenced and taking on the ideologies of the ones that have follow their way of interpreting the Torah in Hebrew, which I believe translated to the Talmud in Yiddish, these slight corruptions or inversions or changes, whatever you want to call them, to the original thing that twists its meaning and draws the energy to somebody else. Because everything that we have to do is like with reality is symbol decryption. It's general semantics, I think, is the field that it's called, how you interpret symbols, language from culture to culture, everything, and what it does to manifest things in the physical reality. So they wanted those blood groups badly to integrate them into theirs, but they want something that they hate. They don't like those people. The whole point is to change them and their value system to bring in the chosen power to their group as the ones that were not. Okay? And the Nazis do it today. But they just won't identify that. They'll actually claim that they're, you understand? Okay. So, all right. All right. Seems like, okay. Hang on. So Sam said, what is the status on the front of those in the know fighting against the oppressive Nazis? I'm sure there are different factions, but I feel like we're all in the dark. No, that's not a bad question, actually. That's, I mean, you look, they're good questions. They're just challenging to answer in a way that's quickly. So I'm not sure what to tell you there. What I can tell you is like, so you're making some good comments, Dan. Like, again, pointing out that a lot of our culture has been influenced by Nazis, but it all took on the likeness of things like Disney, like the Peanuts cartoon, like all these things where we weren't always conscious and aware that people were using this type of symbol manipulation in what we grew up on. It was in our television shows, the comics that we read, all of it. So we've been fully indoctrinated into believing that, like forgetting our own histories and what we really are and giving power away to the Nazis who came over in 1945 via Operation Paperclip. And again, every time they go to a different place, you can't just bring in 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 of these people. They will spread like wildfire. They'll create breeding programs and cults and make sure that they have as many Nazi SS having babies with as many women out there as humanly possible. And that's exactly what they did when they got here. They Lebensborned us. If you don't know what Lebensborn is, look that up. Lebens. Actually, I have a quick article I can show you guys on the tag programs and Lebensborn. Let me do that. I'm almost there. Hang on.
This whole thing about my education in the tag program and the way that tag translates in German to day. Tag means day. So it got me thinking that if the use of this word Tag was done with intention, to sort of mean like a day class, it's day school, the same way that Germans use like Kindergarten, means children garden, means, that's where they spend their days. So I'm starting to think that maybe, since especially considering that James J. Pettigrew seems to have some association with the Finders, and that I've kind of tracked a lot of that down to Love Family and some of these other things that have some Nazi occult values to it, I think it's safe to say that at least part of my childhood was managed from a distance by James Pettigrew. So given that, I just want to present some information here about how there might be some correlations between the tag program, which would mean Tag in German or day, and things that happened like with Lebensborn in Norway, which was a Nazi program that involved the soldiers breeding with the Norwegian women.
And so,
And guys, just in case like you're wondering what this is about, like why would I be doing this thing about like this tag? It's because crap, hang on. Did not mean to start that. That always slows down everything on my computer if I'm doing a live stream, so hang on. Where did it go? All right, there we are. Sorry about that. Okay, so the reason why I'm showing you this, guys, is because while I was in Bothell with the Love family cult people around me, okay, this was in the 80s. I went to a school in Woodinville, Washington, the town next to Bothell, called Wellington. Okay, and at Wellington, I was admitted into one of these, kids, smart kids classrooms. We had to take an IQ test. My brother actually was accepted into the same class when he, before me. He was older than me, and literally, we were two of these, like they would call us genius kids. I'm not sure. I think I'm one, but they would put all the genius kids in these two rooms. My brother was in the intermediate classroom because he's a few years older than me, and I was in the primary. And so, like when I was in like third grade, I was like what, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Like he was like on his way out of the program. I think my first year in there. Um, and he went on to like be in the other advanced courses when he went into junior high or whatever. But anyways, the point was is both me and my brother were accepted into the tag program, and these programs exist to this very day. And again, they seem like good things, and I wouldn't necessarily discourage somebody from putting their kid in a tag classroom. It's just that you're kind of going to be it raises awareness around them, and it puts them in an environment where the groups that are kind of more Nazi valued are going to like want to keep a close eye on them, cultivate them, and steer them into the Nazi value system. They really go for the children. The same way you're seeing all the cultural indoctrination and the indoctrination and the attempts to F up all the children in our society right now with all these bizarre things going on in our country, trying to normalize certain behaviors. That's all classic Nazism. They're trying to create new splits. They're trying to create new splits in personality, new ways to fracture the individual, fracture the mind, more trauma. Guys, I mean, I got to tell you, I've just been, I have a weird way of looking at this because I've been around these traumatized people many, many times in my life. And I've had things I've had to get over myself. And but the point is that sometimes I see people out there that are behaving in ways that are extremely ugly. That I know that they wouldn't be doing what they're doing if they had had a better childhood. They wouldn't be acting the way they are right now if the trauma and abuse hadn't been done to them. And it breaks my heart. I've been around some of them. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like you see sometimes where they do things that are very dark and destructive, and they have something kind of like the split going on in their personalities. And and there's this other part of them that is very pure and decent and kind. And they didn't lose that part of their, like, there's still something there way, way deep down. But you have to get through layer after layer after layer after layer of programming, and it's painful to see, and it's painful to go through, um, because they have so much potential. Some of them are really like intelligent and beautiful, or just really incredibly talented in something, and the things that are done to aggressively change them from the like beautiful people they really are to being somebody that's very programmed and triggered and designed to sort of create um, chaos around them. I feel bad for them in a way. Yeah, sometimes they're out there doing really horrible things, and I shouldn't feel bad for them. But I was raised around so much of this that I saw the etymology of how they began in many cases. I like know the types of things that happened to them to know that by the time I'm seeing one of them across from me while I'm in my 40s, I'm kind of going like, wow, I wish I could go back to then and just keep you from even having to experience this so that you wouldn't be like this today, because you can see them. You can see how good they are, like way deep down. You can see it. So I just want to say that.
A little bit of background on the tag program is that So it was in Wellington Elementary School in the outskirts of Seattle, Washington. And when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I took this IQ test and scored pretty high on it. And based on that, I was placed in the TAG program, which is short for talented and gifted. So in this program, I was given access to like computers, like the Commodore 64. It was a PET, Commodore PET that we had there, and then at home we had like Commodore 64s, VIC-20s, and things like that. But point is that when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I had access to computers. James Pettigrew bought us an Atari 2600 as a gift and things like that. So it just seemed like there was a lot of interest in placing us as children in front of all the latest technology and giving us access to all the computers, and a special emphasis on there being a human-machine interface. So the other part about that program that was a little bit frustrating for me growing up was that the textbooks that I had in that classroom when I was in the single digits, I wound up having again when I got into junior high. So literally a textbook that I had when I was 7 or 8 or 9 years old when I was in the TAG classroom.
Yeah, just so you know, that's actually my letter of acceptance into the program. So I was there. And again, there might be people out there that recognize me from then. So, hey, if you are from the Seattle area, specifically Woodinville, and you went to Wellington, send me an email if any of this resonates with you, because by now you must have known how Nazi'd up our education was. Guys, we were taught German in this classroom. I was taught German when I was 8 and 9 years old. That's not a normal education. That was in a public school. If that's not some Nazi indoctrination, I'm not sure what is. So
I had to take all over again when I was in my junior high classrooms in Franklin County, if that gives you an idea of what happened with my education. So I think that they were really trying to place an emphasis on identifying children that had special abilities like this, and which I do. Let's face it, I have these abilities. It's some mixture of pattern recognition, synesthesia, ways that I can sort of extract patterns from data. And it doesn't mean that every pattern that I extract is a relevant one or correlative, but it's still it's an ability, and definitely not something that you would want to classify as a condition or something like that. It's absolutely an ability that you would want to have in the right place, especially I would say within data analysis, law enforcement. People like me are very valuable in that regard, and I think what you'll find is that people who have these abilities also are sort of naturally driven to do the right thing and naturally kind of inclined to. That doesn't mean that genetically they can't be made to do other things at times, or that you won't find bad people amongst them. I'm just saying that I think there seems to be something that I've recognized in people that can do this, is that they seem to be very pure-hearted, and I like to think that about myself. Maybe I'm wrong, but point is that I believe these programs are meant to identify people like me, and people in the stock market call us puzzle masters. They look for us to identify stock patterns and things like that. So the notion that we're not valuable to society, or that pattern recognition is somehow a condition, I personally, it's not a belief system that I have. I think it's an ability and should be recognized as such. But you don't necessarily give a person special privileges because they can do it. It just means that it's definitely not a disability. So anyways, if my research proves accurate, what I think is going on with these TAG classrooms is that they're taking about half of these kids and like elevating them to positions of power, and then placing the other half in mediocre positions. And I think that they're specifically placing those of us in mediocre positions.
Just keep you might want to screenshot that if you're. I'll give you a little bit of time. But if you're ever curious about what Project Rainbow is, one of these projects that's close to MK Ultra, there's document numbers on there. You can start doing more research if you want to on the FOIA library. But a lot of information on some of these slides in the background, if you really look at the ones that are declassified. Just throw that out of the hint.
I put myself in that category. I had a decent career, but I could tell that they were placing me in an environment.
See, this is about Project Rainbow. And so all I'm telling you guys is that a big part of these programs here, really, when you get down to it, it's not just that you have pattern recognition ability and you're like a bioenergetic, a super delegate of bioenergy, you can influence more. It's that you can change weather, guys. The same things they're able to do with HARP as an antenna array, you can do with human brainwave and hiving it together. Really briefly, in case you question what I'm saying, I was just commenting on a Newsmax article here just to show you really quick, guys. I was being a wise ass, but there is like an actual serious point to be made with this. It says a major hurricane has a 71% chance of striking the continental United States this season, Colorado State researchers said Thursday. And so I just did a joke. Well, it's not a joke, but anyways, I put translation mafia insiders at Department of Energy will be using mini HARP antenna arrays to change the plasma field in various locations to modify weather patterns and cause a chain reaction of artificially produced hurricanes and tornadoes as they attempt to distract their way out of a crisis. And this is the actual chart. Somebody sent this to me, I think, many years ago. Thank you to whoever that was. And it actually kind of details here the different forms of entrainment. So this might be of interest to you who ask questions about psychotronics and things. You may want to get a screenshot of this. I'll put my ugly head out of here. Whoop. Hang on. Here you go. There's an untainted screenshot if you want it, and you may want to get this slide. And it kind of details to you the different bands, extremely low frequency. So this is what I talk about within human brainwave here. If you're familiar with my material, I've often talked about how human brainwave and Earth brainwave are right in this exact category. So the Earth is about 7.83 hertz. That's the Schumann resonance, but it has harmonics that go up beyond 30 hertz. But it starts with a base signal of 7.83 hertz. Not by coincidence, human brainwave, especially in alpha state, also very close, about 8 hertz typically, but human brainwave can go below 3 hertz. It can go to half a hertz. I mean, honestly, it depends on what your state is. If you're sleeping, your brainwave is probably lower, not always, but most of the time. And if you're very active and you're thinking about a lot of things, you could even exceed 30 hertz. The point is whether you're Earth brainwave or human brainwave, you're pretty much always right in this ELF range, right here where HARP and Earth nature is. Then once you add into that HARP also operates at 3 megahertz to 30 megahertz. If you're wondering the difference, a hertz is 1 cycle per second. A megahertz is a million cycles per second. So it's just really a harmonic, or whatever you want to say, like a multiplier of the other, right? A million cycles per second as opposed to 1 cycle per second. All right. And they've learned that within HARP, you can do all kinds of different things in bending plasma, adding plasma to the ionosphere, or changing the weather patterns with plasma bending. They do those things with HARP. That's part of what that whole, if you look up HARP on Wikipedia, they don't even deny this. What they're disingenuous about is explaining how it can affect human brainwave and Earth brainwave. So that's all I'm saying is if you mess with this, with anything at a high power like HARP does, well, you're changing the very nature of Earth. You're changing human brainwave and Earth brainwave simultaneously. And the people that invented HARP know that that's true. That's the part that I find a little bit obscene and absurd about it, to be honest with you. It's like, seriously, you guys, like, you invented that without even thinking. Of course they thought about it. Of course, whoever put that out there thought about this. Okay. But anyways, guys, that's just so you understand. And again, if you ever wanted to hire a consult or with me and talk more about these things on a one-to-one like Q&A type thing, I am available for that. You can contact me to see what it would cost or something like that. Or if you're a contributor, I'm always happy to offer a little bit of my time, that kind of thing. But usually I keep the free things here online for those who've asked in the past. That's kind of the way I do it. It's just because the channel just doesn't earn anything. And sometimes I do need the money. Like right now, guys, I need some money to pay my phone bill even. So that's the only reason why I do it, guys. If I didn't have those needs, I wouldn't even ask anybody to contribute. I would just do this and have fun doing it, because I do like to share information with people and do these things. So, but anyways, back to the presentation.
back to the way that I would want to be. You know what I mean? So I enjoyed parts of my jobs and things like that. I made all right money, but I was never very privileged. I never had a lot. I definitely feel like I had some privilege, mind you. I don't feel like I was starving or anything. But the point is that you can definitely tell within this program that certain people wind up in government positions. They're very much elevated. They're treated very well. And that the ones that seem to have the pattern recognition capabilities, they're placed in more manageable positions where they're basically being monitored and just to see what they'll do. Okay. And this has echoes of Lebensborn, because this is exactly what the Nazis were doing to the same children. They were kind of doing these experiments where they would have the Nazi soldiers breed in with these women in Norway to find, to get their genetics interbred with the Nazi soldiers, and then raise them from birth and like really structure their whole lives. They had all these rituals. In fact, when one of these children were born, it had an SS ritual where a soldier would place a dagger on the child's belly, and they would chant and do rituals and sing songs. So knowing how Nazi occultists blend other activities in with paganism and anchoring sacrifice to certain locations, you can probably imagine some of the other things that might have been done that weren't revealed. Just saying that in my research, things like that definitely happen. So the thing you have to understand is that some of these children, because of the way that this was done and how they were separated, some of them were born up to have very dark and destructive natures. And that wasn't necessarily their fault. But I don't think you should necessarily assume that it's because of their genetic code in and of itself. It is a combination of that they had certain genetic traits removed from them and certain ones added in. And then they had their childhoods very well structured from birth. And some of them, I do believe, were placed out there to be very methodic, deceptive, I don't know how else to place it, but assassins and disinformation agents. And that's their purpose. And there's a lot of evidence that that's happening right now if you follow my research. So we've seen examples of how they're like managing pattern recognition experts and the public perception with films like A Beautiful Mind. And I like the way that the movie that directed by Ron Howard, it does a good job at showing how pattern recognition works, the way that like a pattern can kind of float out, from all the data to the person that's reviewing it. I like that part about it, but what I don't like is the way that Nash is kind of presented as just this completely neurotic person that requires constant management. Whether it was the actual narrative or not, I tend to think that what happens to these people is it's not that they're a neurotic or anything like that. It's that they're intentionally targeted specifically because pattern recognition is vital towards solving a lot of problems. And so the people that are behind a lot of the things that are going on right now know that it takes pattern recognition to defeat what they're doing. It's sort of like having the Enigma code. It's like having the cipher, the magic keys. If you had a group of talented pattern recognition experts attacking the problem right now, the way it should be as data analysts, you'd have it solved in no time, seriously. And I know there's people out there that like to do that. So I think that Lebensborn has echoes to a Hollywood film called The Boys from Brazil. And I think this is important for people to watch so you can kind of understand some of the codes and ciphers that the modern Nazi occultists are using. They very frequently reference this film. It involves basically the raising of some genetic clones of Hitler and distributing them across the world in clusters. And they raised 94 of them. And they intentionally raised them with this, blue eyes and all these other things. But really, when you get down to what The Boys from Brazil is, it's like, even though the film tries to explain it as like a Hitler thing with blue eyes, it really wasn't about having these little clones and their genetic traits around the world. It was about bioenergetics and mass resonance manipulation. I don't want to get into that right now, but if you go back into my previous material and some of my other reports, and I'll leave some links to it, it'll explain that. It's just basically that, by placing an influence leader in different parts of the world that has a certain value system and then them dominating their social structures, it has like an echo effect. It'll have a mass resonance manipulation. It'll carry through and keep reverberating and echoing on. Okay. So the thing about the movie is they discuss in detail about the way these boys' lives are planned from birth, and that, right down to the selection of the women that they are placed into as genetic experiments, the fathers that are selected to raise them, even though they're not their real fathers. The fact that the boys have no real genetic code or just raw genetic material. And then they even go to the extreme of planning to make all of the boys fatherless when the father turns a certain age and the boys turn a certain age. So they structured every single one of these boys' lives identical, right down to the numerics. I mean, right down to the ages of the mothers, very specific details that they're getting for the patterns. You understand that? So since things like this really do happen, and this is not just a Hollywood production, even though it is and it isn't, you must know that the patterns are significant. When a person recognizes those patterns, they're tapping into something that this group is doing, because everything that Nazi occultism and the way that they gain their power is through patterns. Okay, so you're going to need to look for 94 frequently when they're signaling things out. When I'm experiencing things, people tend to send me the number 94. Also, folks, 9 plus 4 equals 13 if you're following numerology. So if this is something that's similar to what we're dealing with today, I had to ask myself, what do we do? Especially since I think some of these people that are involved with these experiments might be doing great harm, and that there also might be people that were part of the experiments that are very good for humanity and are being held back from doing so. And I place myself in that category. I think I'm a good person. I don't mind being vetted. I care about society, and I want to do good things for society. So I've always kind of wondered why at this point in time, despite my skill set, it seems to feel like, even if I offer my services to law enforcement and things like that, for some reason, this is not being acknowledged or recognized. So
That's what's, guys, that's what it reached that fever pitch of absurdity when I was actually like kind of solving some pretty high level things that were going on and offering my assistance, and even going down to the FBI. And just like, they know what I have, they know what I can do, and they know my information's legit. It was just like this payload of information that if they actually cared, they really would have wanted it. And they didn't care, and they didn't want it. And it doesn't matter how correlative or how serious it was, they would just act like I didn't exist. Now you know their game. If you really want to understand it, just watch any testimony of anybody from the FBI when they're in front of Congress, and you're going to see a consistent theme, especially the last several years. They always show up and go like, well, that's not really my pay grade. Well, I can't really answer that question. And that's the subsection of the policy that's connected to whatever. Oh, Antifa? No, they're an idea. They don't really exist. Meanwhile, we got these like gangs that are going through the streets, like tearing down the cities and everything like that, while the FBI goes, I don't see that. You see, that's Nazis helping Nazis. The crisis actors, the LARPers, they're on the ground being Antifa. The FBI is going, I didn't see that. Those crimes don't exist, because they're managing everybody. Guys, it's destabilization by design. And that's why we have everything in the state that we do right now. So my suggestion is, for those of you who figured this out, really know what it all means, and have some influence and have some ability to change things. Hey, I don't know. I haven't seen on Indeed.com or Monster.com or any of these other websites, haven't seen anything that says Nazi Hunter yet, or Nazi Hunter project manager, coordinator, or Nazi Hunter lead engineer, or anything like that. So, but if you can create a position like that and you don't mind hiring me, then I would be happy to, quit what I'm doing now and do that.
I have to think it's happening to others, and there must be a reason why. So my personal perspective is this, like, what would happen if we had these people out there that you learn were part of these experiments? And I kind of take the same perspective that Lieberman does inside the movie, and to a degree. Even though I've probably been harassed and bothered by some of these people that have Nazi values and principles, and I've been very, let me tell you guys, ladies and gentlemen, it's been bad type of treatment. It's they take mass resonance manipulation very seriously. People with Nazi principles, they're trying to dominate your perspective. They want you to feel like you're lower, and they want you to feel like you're here to be abused, and you're not. You're very strong, very intelligent, and you have abilities that kind of like Carrie Matheson. That if once we're in the right environment and we have people that appreciate what we have to offer, I have no doubt that people will understand what pattern recognition and synesthesia really means. That these are not conditions, that these are not things that you would want to place somebody, in any special category for, aside from that it's just something you could check on the box as an ability. It shouldn't be one way or the other, And what these people do is they recognize people that have this unique ability and are extremely good at it, and they try to structure their lives from birth to where they will see themselves as genetically inferior, and they will carry those traits along to the next generation. And by gaslighting these people and telling them that the patterns don't exist that they're finding, it also basically beats that person down and tells them that the things that they're discovering in reality are not reality, and it allows these people around them to restructure that for them. And so I'm trying to tell you is that if you feel like that this may have happened to you, then you should not feel like it's your place to accept that these patterns don't exist. It is okay to discuss them. Just do it respectfully and highlight them whenever necessary, because you're probably tapping into something very real if you're finding the same things that I am, and you shouldn't be discouraged from looking into it. And I just want to offer this as a I guess an olive branch to people out there that are from all classes of the genetics in this, because I do think that some of the people that are trying to do good now may have been raised under Nazi values and principles, but don't believe in them themselves, just same way people can leave a religion and things like that. And if those people are out there and they truly have abandoned those value systems, I hate to think that they're being ostracized and beaten down, So we have to just sort of recognize people for their behaviors today and what they're really doing, and to maybe increase our awareness levels and our intelligence levels when it comes to detecting, when it's happening. So we can't find a solution for what.
Anyways, guys, it's pretty much the article. I don't need to necessarily play the very last part of it because it's more of like a lecture thing, but that's most of the data that I culled and try to piece together as far as the tag program, the gate program in America. I know it's a little bit vague, but it's mostly for a select audience. I was just trying to put it out there a little bit as a food for thought about what really goes on, whether it's MK Ultra and those types of things that literally just aggressively sort of beats the brain down through frequency entrainment, through light flicker, through EM fields, just raising them in places where they're always within these sort of hived environments where their thoughts and values merge with people that are sort of Nazi thought leaders. Those are the types of experiments they were really doing, guys. I mean, MK Ultra is so much deeper than chemicals and weird, Nazi-like experiments in that direction. I would argue, it has way more to do with cultural indoctrination in tandem with frequency, vibration, energy hacking of the human body. They have an awareness of what bioenergetics is that Nazis have it. They just hide it from everybody else. And so even within the only reason why I even know anything about energetics is because there's declassified military documentation that I found. I found it only because I was doing research on companies that were close to my family. And then that's when I was like, oh my God, what did I just find? Literally, I found most of this type of knowledge is held by a company that my own brother worked for, Science Applications International Corporation. And if you want to know the problem, guys, about fake puppet CEOs, the guys, if you don't believe that Elon Musk is a fake, I need you to understand where his origins are from. All right. And Jeff Bezos, for that matter, this shouldn't be a Pepsi versus Coke argument when it comes to going to space, guys. They both are horrible, and they're fake. So, oh wow, guys, what was I about to look up? This sucks. I was just about to show you this, man. Who was the Nazi king? I'm so glad I remembered it. Oh my God, I almost forgot. Man, I'm telling you, the brain jamming thing is no joke. If this doesn't convince you of what the problem is, this is the company that did all the Psi research, guys. This is the company that owns, this. Look, if you ask me, the whole fake CEO system originates right here. SAIC, all the documentation is out there. This company owns Stargate. They own the Stargate project, or Project Stargate. That is everything the United States learned about the energetics field was run by these people. Now that you know they fake everything, and these are the people that also talked us into the Iraq war, Yes, it was SAIC, a man named David K. Everything these people do is energetic manipulation. It is psychoenergetic manipulation. And they control pretty much all information flow in America in ways that you don't have a clue about unless you've probably seen my material. 3 articles you can start with. There's a playlist in my thing that says Justin Gabriel Cruz information sharing for concerned parties. All right, the first 3 articles in that playlist are about this company and Ericsson. Between these 2 companies, they control all of the flow of internet protocol addresses, IP addresses, phone numbers, and central warehousing of all of it. It all has to go someplace, guys. Somebody has to decide what number you can get, what area code you are. All right. This company hijacked that. And before they were doing that, they were mastering your mind, the human body, everything to do with psychoenergetics. And you know how I say Elon Musk is a patently fake name? Well, who do you think thought it up? But the same company that thought up Nazi King. Nazi, Sikh, King. And they love using K because David K lied to get us into the Iraq war. So KE, you can also repurpose to K. Okay. This company, SAIC, well, what is that backwards? CIAs. It belongs to the CIA. What did David Icke say? Project Operation Paperclip. So this is Nazi Operation Paperclip ownership, now hiding behind the scenes, doing really bold shit like having a fake CEO, a woman named Nazi King. And presenting that to you as real. Yeah, guys, she was born with that name. Just like Elon Musk. Yeah. Homegirl was born Nazi King. Why not? Believe what you want to. If you guys, I don't care where you are in America right now, if you still believe this shit, our country is going to go down the drain. If you're in the military and you accept this as reality and you go, God gave, you just make these things up, it's going to be at your peril. If you still don't take me seriously, it'll be at your peril. You'll regret it. Okay? I'm not saying that as a threat. I'm saying that I'm sorry that I'm the deliverer of this very weird, bizarre information, but stop trusting these fucking goons, please. Stop saying that Elon's going to save you. He's from the same ecosystem. His fake story, just like Nazi King, is not real. Sean Penn's a part of it. Sean Hannity's a part of it. Stop thinking left. Stop thinking right. Stop thinking progressive. Stop thinking Republican, Democrat, all those bullshit, red, blue, black, white. It's over. It matters not anymore. We all have the same problem, and it's this right here. If you hate somebody who's a different color of you over some news story, they placed it there. They've just got all these different ways of owning these different things all over the world, ecosystems of infrastructure, companies that you think are owned by somebody but still lead back here. If you do my research, I can show you so many records leading back to SAIC. It's insane how many records lead back to them. It's bizarre that nobody in our military, well, they have actually, guys. That's not true. So kudos to those of you who do, especially you Marines, Semper Fi. I absolutely respect you. Okay, please don't take it any other way. There are, and again, all branches, guys. There's lots of people that I know are pitching in and helping, and I'm letting you know, like, this is your uphill battle. It's getting your brothers and sisters that are in those organizations to not fall into the trap of this bullshit woke culture that these Nazis are trying to integrate into your military. And they're trusted by the military overall. They're supplying you with information systems. They do the Radio Free America things in other countries, guys. They do propaganda. It is their business. And there is nobody that SAIC does propaganda to like the United States American population, and especially our military. They are always putting you into dangerous situations you should not be in through made up narratives. Please wake up, because your lives depend on it, and our free country relies on it. Please understand what I'm telling you. I would not bullshit you. I can also show you examples when people were pretending to be military personnel in these fake media interviews, wearing a face mask to pretend to be one of you. Because they can get away with that, because even though it's kind of false valor, it's not illegal. It's illegal to impersonate a law enforcement officer, but it is not illegal to pretend to be a military officer and get on a channel and go, this is all the things that are happening right now. They can use a crisis actor that never got a day of training and get away with it legally. Did you know that? I know that because I actually went to the military before I went to the FBI with my information, and I said, I don't think the FBI is going to listen. Just in case anybody wonders how far I've taken this. Why would I do something like that? Well, guys, because that's just who I am. I go to different places and I go, I think that when you see what I see, you'll see it the same way as me. You're going to finally figure out that these people have been managing our perceptions for a very long time. This company was formed in the late 60s by a man named J. Robert Bannister, but it wasn't. He's a buffer CEO, a fake. They always use fake characters. They always do. Then they have those CEOs do bad things, and sometimes they release like that information out to the public, like, let's see what people will accept. Like Elon, do you think the public will accept that Elon, microdoses LSD, smokes joints? Most people don't care that he smokes weed. I don't care. In fact, I would say most CEOs probably should smoke more. But that part doesn't bother me, guys. It's just the way that they use something like that to make him go like, yeah, he's the cool one, man. No, he's from this. He's from this. And this basically is a defense contractor that handles information technology and information systems, computing, central routes of computing, managing information for the government. Okay? They're abusing their authority left and right. They lie to the military. They lie to the American public. They control media organizations in very clever ways. If you still don't believe me, read that backwards, SAIC, CIAs. Then, how does that word sound when you just say it forward? Psych, psych, like they do psych outs. They lie. They also handled psy warfare. They are the black budget organization when it comes to everything involving the human mind. And if you think that they're only using it on foreigners, think again. They're using it on all of us. My brother was at this company for 6 years. They trained him in college and they hired him for a few years after he got out. Right in the middle of when they hijacked the internet, the phone companies, and psychic research via the Stargate project. He claims to have no real knowledge of any of these things and says I exaggerate things, just for the record. That's kind of his way of perceiving it. I would say, Big Brother, you may want to stop bullshitting me and stop bullshitting everyone in your professional environment. And your only way of saving face is to accept me rebuking you and for you to go on a path of redemption instead of continuing to pretend that I don't exist and that my information isn't meaningful just because you want to maintain your bullshit career with these bullshit assholes who are bullshitting all of us and harming our country. Man up a little bit, stop being a pussy, and do the right thing. Okay? See, that's how you actually treat somebody when you're their family. You encourage them to do the right thing. You let them know that they might have a path if they want to fix what they've done. But something tells me, dude, you know a lot more about this than you let on. That's all I'm saying. Because otherwise, why are you leaving me out to dry? Why would a family that cares about their kid let this kind of shit happen to them, knowing that this is the origins? Unless it's the system, unless they get enriched from it, unless they're an integral part of it. Because every time I've confronted said individual, he does nothing but defend this psych out bullshit company with a CEO named Nazi King. Hey, Joaquin, do you think maybe Nazi King is a replacement for another king? Or a queen, like Aquino. I don't know. Just throwing another shot out over the bow for those in the know. Because when SAIC decided that they had so much government business, they couldn't even control more information that the military and the NSA and the CIA has. Oh, yeah, they were that powerful. You know what they did? They go, oh, wow, we can't take on any more government contracts because it'll be illegal. We'll have like a total monopoly on it. What should we do? They bought Lockheed Martin's ITIS division, absorbed it into a new company called Leidos, and then kept all the ITIS resources as SAIC. The second company took on Lockheed Martin, so they technically weren't taking on all of the business, but that pretty much made it to where they had all of it. And then they named that company Leidos. Leidos. The first time they psyched you out, psych number 1, lie dos, Spanish. Because sometimes those Nazi kings pretend to be other ethnicities that speak Spanish. Hint. All right, guys. I'm not going to go into SCIC Naziville much anymore. What my next presentations are going to, well, I'm not going to say I'm not going to do it anymore because, you know, guys, when people like this are in the world and companies like this are doing bullshit like this and trying to present Elon and all these other people as real to me, I have to show people how it really works. You don't know how bad it is until you really see something like this. And this is usually the thing that if somebody ever doubted me, that once they see this, they go, are you serious? You're saying that that's a real person? I go, uh-huh. And I'm sure they can produce birth certificates and fake family histories and realistic looking histories that make it all look neat and tidy to fool people using all their early photoshopping and manufacturing this and that. They're experts at it. So just figure it out, folks, because they have created a huge illusory world for us to live in that they're now terrorizing us with. And they weren't just happy taking their little Nazi agenda here in the United States. They've taken it globally. Take a look around, right, Sean Penn, right, Sean Hannity? You may as well just be signing up for this. In fact, anyways. So guys, the next one's going to be about, I'm going to talk more about, let me get this bullshit off the screen. Sorry about that. The next, not that. All right. Okay, the next one I'm going to be doing, I think, is the Controlled Offensive Behavior series. It's one of the first reports that I ever did, and I'd like to revisit it because everybody's been asking about brainwave and energetics. And honestly, guys, that's really what I want to be the focus of this channel. I want to talk about more life reinforcing concepts, and things that are good and positive, and how to use our human energy and amplify and raise our frequency. And this really is some low vibration, low frequency shit that we have to delve into. And I don't like doing it for a couple hours at a time. And I don't want you to feel discouraged about the way the world's going. What I'm telling you is congratulations, guys. We reached the fever pitch of discovering that this is all bullshit. And a lot of people are figuring it out that have a lot of influence and a lot of power. And the reason why I've done the clips that I've done lately, where I say like I'm a force to be reckoned with, I don't have an ego about it. It's to make sure that you understand that I went far and wide. I went state to state. I talked to all kinds of people. And some of them rolled their eyes at first, but see, they knew to keep an eye on me afterwards. Like, I don't know if that guy's lying or telling the truth, or if he knows what he's talking about, or if he's crazy. All I know is we can't just leave him out there. We're going to watch what he does. And I welcome them. I did full metal disclosure sessions. I've taught people over and over again all across this country what this is all about. And you know something? It did make a difference. And then they started planning, but nothing happens overnight. But I do think that we are really close. I really do. I can feel it. Normally, I wouldn't even say that, but things are going to be okay. So I'm going to be doing the Controlled Offensive Behavior reports next. I'm not sure when I'm going to do that, but it's going to be soon. That's a complete Defense Intelligence Agency document that's all about these things, okay? If you'd like to contribute, I'd really appreciate it. Just need a little extra boost right now until I get my first paycheck from my job. So guys, that's always appreciated with the channel, but especially now. So thank you very much. God bless. Ascension now. Have a good night.